Back in 2014, the superhero universe on the big screen was dominated by Marvel. Meanwhile, on TV, DC was just beginning to build its empire with Arrow, a show with a much grittier and grounded tone. And it was in that landscape that a breath of fresh air came along and changed everything: The Flash. It arrived like a shot of optimism, bringing a hero who stood for pure light, hope, and, above all, heart. The premise is one everyone knows by now. Barry Allen, a forensic scientist, is struck by lightning and becomes the fastest man alive. But the Flash, which started off as a near-perfect hero's journey, slowly began to change. What started as the story of the Flash eventually became the adventures of Team Flash, with Barry sometimes feeling like a high-profile guest star in his own show. And then there was the infamous hallway talk, where someone would always say, "We need to talk," which somehow became the main villain across multiple seasons. Let's be honest, as much as we love these characters, that formula eventually wore really thin. Still, it's a show worth looking back on. So today on the channel, The Flash, a series that had the most potential in the Arrowverse, but ended up wasting it as the seasons went by. We meet Barry Allen, a Central City forensic scientist who, during a freak storm, is struck by lightning. But this isn't just any lightning bolt. It originated from the explosion of the Star Labs particle accelerator. The result? A 9-month coma. Barry wakes up not in the hospital, but in Star Labs itself, under the care of its head, Harrison Wells, and his 2 assistants, Caitlin Snow and Cisco Ramon. The team explains that the accident gave him an upgrade. Barry can now move at an absurd speed. And he wasn't the only one to gain superpowers. The city is now teeming with meta-humans. First on the list is Clyde, a man who can control the weather and is using his new abilities to rob banks. To stop him, Cisco, the team's resident nerd, creates a special suit that can withstand Barry's super speed. Barry goes after Martin and, with the help of Detective Joe West, who discovers his secret, manages to corner the villain. In the end, it's Joe who takes Martin out. With his new powers, Barry has a clear goal: to prove the innocence of his father, Henry, who is imprisoned for the murder of his mother, Nora. Barry was just a child, but he saw everything. The real killer was another meta-human. He decides to use a code name, Flash, and the final scene is mind-blowing. Wells, whom everyone thought was a paraplegic, stands up from his wheelchair, takes off his glasses, and reads a newspaper from 2024 that reads, "Flash missing vanishes in crisis." On another day, Barry is enjoying the hero life but starts suddenly passing out. The team discovers that his metabolism has accelerated so much that he needs to eat like a bear coming out of hibernation to avoid hypoglycemia. A man named Danton Black appears, who can create clones of himself and wants revenge on his former boss who stole his research. Barry defeats the army of clones, but the villain jumps to his death. Joe gives him the push he needs, and Barry finally accepts his help to investigate his mother's murder. And then comes the bombshell. Wells visits Simon, who is obsessed with capturing the Flash. Wells simply kills the man without a second thought. This guy is darker than he seems.
He will be one day. He must be kept.
The police investigate the murder of a member of a crime family, and Barry suspects the culprit is a meta-human who controls poisonous gases. While Barry and Joe try to identify the killer, Wells and his team decide to turn the particle accelerator into a maximum security prison for meta-humans. This hits Caitlin hard, as her fiancé, Ronnie Raymond, died in the accelerator explosion. The team identifies the killer as Kyle Nimbus. It turns out he doesn't control gases, he becomes gas. Nimbus's next target is Joe, the detective who arrested him years ago. Barry races to Iron Heights prison to save Joe's life. The tactic is to force Nimbus to exhaust himself so much that he can't maintain his gaseous form, allowing Barry to capture him. With the villain apprehended, the team inaugurates their new meta-human prison, locking Nimbus in the first cell.
Good night.
In a flashback to the night of the explosion, we see Wells entering his secret room, turning on a monitor, and watching, live, the exact moment the lightning strikes Barry in his lab. He had a front row seat the whole time.
See you soon, Barry.
A well-intentioned crew tries to rob an armored truck carrying a diamond to a museum, but Barry arrives to crash the party. Later, he manages to identify one of the men, Leonard Snart. In the midst of this, who shows up for a visit? Felicity Smoke, straight from Starling City, to check on how Barry is doing after waking from his coma. Meanwhile, Snart isn't messing around and gets his hands on a cold gun that, coincidentally, was stolen from Star Labs. He returns to stake out the diamond, but is caught in the act and has to use his new freezing weapon to escape. Then comes the bombshell. The weapon was created by Cisco himself. The idea was to have a backup plan in case Barry decided to turn evil, just like the other meta-humans. With help from Felicity, who is basically a walking Google, the team locates Snart. But the guy is smart and sets a trap for Barry. Cisco, Caitlin, and Felicity arrive in the nick of time to save our hero, but Snart manages to escape again.
Drop it. I will shoot you.
I'll see you around.
Wells gets pissed at Cisco and forbids him from creating any more anti-Barry weapons. In the end, Barry says goodbye to Felicity with a kiss, and to cap things off, Snart finds an old partner who, by a happy coincidence, loves fire. He offers him the other stolen weapon and a proposition: join him to take Central City from the Flash. So get this, a new meta-human emerges, Bette Sans Souci. Her superpower? She's essentially the opposite of King Midas. Everything she touches turns into a bomb. To make matters worse, she's being hunted by a certain General Eiling, a tough-as-nails military man. Barry, ever the good guy, brings Beck to Star Labs. There, the team explains her situation. The accelerator explosion fused bomb shrapnel into her body at a cellular level. It's like a tattoo you can't remove. But Wells, who's never one to be trusted, secretly convinces Bette to go after the General and kill him. Barry rushes to prevent the showdown, but it's too late. Eiling shoots Bette, who, before dying, utters Wells's name. Her body begins to turn into a giant time bomb. Without a second thought, Barry grabs her body, outruns the explosion itself, and throws it into the river. Saving the city. After the chaos, the General visits Wells, wanting to team up to collect meta-humans. Wells refuses and tells him never to set foot there again. Amidst all this, Barry fights with Iris because she won't stop writing about the streak, and their friendship goes down the drain. And in a flashback from 5 years ago, we see Wells talking to a gorilla in a cage, Grodd, saying he has big plans for him. Yes, a gorilla.
A whole different future in mind for you.
Barry confidently goes to stop a car thief, but when he throws a punch, things go south. The guy's skin turns to solid steel, and Barry breaks his hand. The villain is none other than Tony Woodward, the bully who picked on Barry in childhood. The world sure is small, huh? Back at the lab, Cisco does the math and figures out our Man of Steel's kryptonite. If Barry hits him with a punch at the right speed and angle, his metal structure will shatter. While they plan, Tony kidnaps Iris, demanding she write about him. The guy's ego is bigger than his muscles. Barry arrives to save the day and manages to land the supersonic punch, temporarily disabling Tony's powers. The bully ends up imprisoned at Star Labs and, to his surprise, discovers that Barry is the speedster.
Alan?
The thing that happened to you, Tony?
Speaking of which, Iris, on Barry's advice, finally christens the hero, The Flash, on her blog. The two make amends. Meanwhile, Joe continues to investigate Nora's murder and starts to suspect Wells. But Wells has a ready answer, and Joe is convinced. But then things get serious. The other mysterious speedster, the same one who killed Nora, appears out of nowhere, steals the case file, and threatens Iris's life if Joe doesn't drop the investigation. The game has just leveled up. Wells returns to his secret room, where we discover he not only documents Barry's abilities, but also uses an artificial intelligence named Gideon to peek into the future. He's basically a walking spoiler with VIP access to everyone's next chapter. Meanwhile, Barry arrives at a crime scene where the victim has been burned to a crisp, definitely the work of a meta-human. The team finds an energy spike in the city, and when Barry checks it out, he's attacked by Farouk Jabron, a guy who sucks up electricity like a super-powered vacuum cleaner. The attack drains Barry's speed, leaving him slower than dial-up internet. In Wells's future, Gideon reports that there is no longer any mention of the Flash. The hero is gone. Wells realizes Barry's problem is psychological, a crisis of confidence. To make matters worse, Jabron invades Star Labs, kills Woodward, and puts Wells's life at risk. This forces Barry to cast aside his fear, reconnect with his speed, and finish Jabron with an overdose of energy. While all this was happening, the Clock King decides to start a hostage crisis at the police station and shoots Eddie, but Iris, proving she's no damsel, manages to stop the villain and sends him back to his cage. In the end, Wells sees that the timeline is secure again and takes a sample of Gibran's blood. He wants to find out how the guy managed to turn off Barry's powers. Suspicious, to say the least. The crossover we've all been waiting for has finally happened. But first, Eddie, still a bit shaken, wants to create a task force to hunt down the Flash. He's turned into the J. Jonah Jameson of the DC universe, just without the mustache. To complicate things, a new meta-human emerges, Roy Bivolo, who has the power to turn anyone into the Hulk, leaving people in an uncontrollable rage. And of course, he uses this to rob a bank. That's when Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow himself, shows up in Central City. He's hunting a killer who uses deadly boomerangs. Barry and Oliver decide to team up and help each other hunt their respective villains, but Barry, thinking he's the top dog, decides to go after Bivolo alone and ends up getting a dose of rage straight to the veins. And since Barry's powers amplify everything, the effect lasts much longer. The result? The fight everyone wanted to see. Flash versus Arrow. Speed against precision.
You need to calm down. And you need to hold on. You missed. No.
Oliver manages to hold his own until Joe and Wells show up with a scientific contraption, a colorful strobe light that looks like it's from a rave and resets Barry's brain. After that, they capture Bivolo and lock him in the Star Labs prison. Eddie gets his task force, since the Flash himself beat him up. Oliver gives Barry some big brotherly advice. He still has a lot to learn, and more importantly, he should stay away from Iris. Speaking of whom, Iris now thinks the Flash is a threat. To top it off, a new fire-controlling meta-human emerges in the city. The Reverse Flash is back, and this time, he's not playing around. He shows up to steal some tachyon technology, and when Barry tries to stop him, he gets a beating that makes other fights look like playground squabbles.
Fast enough, Flash.
The villain even drops this line: "They've been enemies for centuries." Barry is left more confused than a cat at a magic show. Meanwhile, the fire meta causing trouble is Ronnie, Caitlin's fiance, whom everyone thought was dead, but the guy has total amnesia.
Ronnie, it's me, Kate.
I'm not Ronnie.
Barry, following his father's advice, decides to leave the friend zone and confesses his feelings to Iris about time. The team sets a trap using the tech as bait, but the plan fails spectacularly. The Reverse Flash escapes, lays a beat down on Wells and the police, and does something strange. He completely ignores Eddie, as if he were invisible. Ronnie appears out of nowhere, confronts the villain, and they both disappear into the night. Joe finally tells Eddie about meta-humans, and then comes the twist. Cisco realizes that on the night of Nora Allen's murder, there were 2 speedsters in the house, not one. And to cap it all off, Wells enters his secret room, opens a panel, and there it is, the Reverse Flash suit. He places the stolen technology into the suit and speaks with the villain's distorted voice. That's right, Wells is the Reverse Flash. Barry is obsessed with getting faster and trains non-stop, but Captain Cold is back, and this time he's brought a friend, Mick Rory, a brute with a heat gun, literally ice and fire. Wells advises Barry not to confront them, hoping they'll just get tired and leave, but that's not how it goes. To force the Flash to show himself, the duo kidnaps Caitlin. Now it's personal. Barry and Cisco devise a plan, get them to cross the streams of their weapons, just like in Ghostbusters. With some help from Eddie, it works. The weapons short out, and the pair is arrested, but as they're being transported to Iron Heights, Snart's sister attacks the convoy and frees them. Meanwhile, Caitlin discovers the army is hiding something about Ronnie's transformation, and to wrap up, with Iris moving into Eddie's apartment, Barry packs his bags and moves back into Joe's house. Dr. Wells is relaxing at home when he receives a very threatening call. Seconds later, he has to use super speed to dodge an assassination attempt. Wait, Wells has super speed? The team is shocked. He explains that the person responsible is Hartley Rathaway, his former protege who, apparently, has been holding a serious grudge. This Hartley character starts attacking his own family's company with sonic blasts. Barry shows up to handle it, but the villain uses the opportunity to drop a bombshell. He warned Wells that the particle accelerator could explode, but the doctor ignored the warning for the sake of science. The tension in the lab is thick enough to cut with a knife. The weirdest part is that Hartley let himself be caught on purpose. His plan was to steal information from Star Labs to find the exact frequency of Barry's molecules and kill him. The guy is an evil genius. He sets a trap that starts destroying Barry's organs from the inside, but ironically it's Wells himself who saves the day by disabling Hartley's weapons. Meanwhile, Joe is already suspicious and asks Eddie to start investigating Wells. Back in his cell, Hartley drops another revelation on Cisco. He knows where Ronnie is and how to save him. To wrap up, we see Wells in his secret room using some crazy tech to recharge his speed force. The mystery just keeps deepening. A new Meta appears who can teleport anywhere she can see. Shauna Baez uses her power to break into prison and rescue her boyfriend Clay Parker, who owes money to a crime boss. Henry helps Barry from inside the prison, finds out the couple is planning a heist, and Barry manages to capture Shauna by luring them into a tunnel and turning off all the lights. Unable to see, she can't teleport. Parker escapes. Cisco makes a deal with Hartley to find out the truth about Ronnie. Hartley reveals that a Dr. Martin Stein, who was researching a project called Firestorm, merged with Ronnie during the accelerator explosion.
Ronnie. And Professor Stein.
Barry starts dating Linda Park, a colleague of Iris's, and during a prison visit, Henry implies that he's already figured out his son is the Flash. To top it all off, the final scene shows two city workers being attacked by a giant creature in the shadows. His name is Grodd, and man, I love that gorilla. The team is on the hunt for Dr. Stein, who has suddenly decided to play the villain and attack a scientist. They manage to convince him to return to Star Labs for some tests. There, Wells gives the diagnosis. Ronnie's and Stein's atoms are clashing, like a cosmic sibling rivalry. If they don't stop, the two will become a walking atomic bomb. Stein, being a good guy, decides to isolate himself in a deserted place to explode in peace without taking anyone with him. A true kamikaze hero, but Barry and Caitlin don't give up and rush over with a device Wells built, a sort of quantum splicer to separate the two. But it seems to fail. There's a massive explosion, and the heroic duo barely escapes. This explosion acts as a beacon for General Eiling, who immediately sends his people to capture Firestorm. Meanwhile, in a CSI-style vibe, Joe calls Cisco to help investigate Nora Allen's murder. They search the house and find something bizarre behind new wallpaper, blood from two different people. Joe asks to compare it with Wells's, but the result is even crazier. Cisco discovers that one of the blood samples belongs to Barry, an adult Barry. What? To wrap up, amidst this chaos, Linda is jealous, thinking Barry is still into Iris, but he finds a way to prove that his heart is now hers, at least for now. Barry and Caitlin find Ronnie and Stein alive and well, and most importantly, separated. The bad news is that General Eiling finds out too. Joe takes the opportunity to drop the bombshell on Barry. Blood from a future Barry was at his mother's crime scene. The speedster's mind is blown. Speaking of minds, Ronnie's and Stein's now have a sort of mental Bluetooth connection, sharing each other's thoughts. And Wells? Well, he pays Eiling a visit, who reveals he knows the Flash's identity and demands the Firestorm project. In a move of pure betrayal, Wells hands Dr. Stein over on a silver platter. Stein is tortured until Barry and Ronnie show up to rescue him. To escape the military, Ronnie and Stein merge again, but this time, they can control the transformation. With their new powers, they decide to get out of Central City to train. Meanwhile, Iris is playing investigative journalist. A colleague of hers, Mason, tells her the truth. He thinks Wells caused the accelerator explosion on purpose. Iris becomes suspicious and decides to help. To top it all off, Wells, dressed as the Reverse Flash, kidnaps General Eiling, reveals his identity, and presents him as a gift to Grodd, a giant psychic gorilla who drags the general into the darkness of the sewers. There's a new Martin in town. It's Mark, Clyde's brother, and he's back in Central City seeking revenge. Meanwhile, the romantic climate is more complicated than quantum physics. Eddie and Linda are dying of jealousy over Barry and Iris's closeness. The journalist Mason adds more fuel to the fire, telling Iris and Barry that Wells killed Simon. The information reaches Cisco, who finally starts to think Joe was right. His suspicion turns into certainty, and he decides to recheck the force field that was supposed to trap the Reverse Flash. That's when the nightmare becomes real. Wells appears and drops the biggest bombshell of the series. He is Eobard Thawne, a relative of Eddie's from the future. He traveled back in time to kill Barry, but failed and got stuck in our era. His whole plan is to make Barry faster so he can steal his speed and return home. And to ensure his secret remains safe, he simply kills Cisco with a vibrating hand through the heart.
What it's like to have a son. Forgive me.
As we process this loss, Martin kidnaps Joe and creates a massive tsunami to kill Iris. In an act of desperation, Barry reveals his identity to her, and they finally admit their feelings for each other. To save the city, he runs so fast that he breaks the time barrier and travels back to the previous day. It's a giant reset button. Thawne, who's like an evil mentor, warns Barry not to mess with the timeline because the chances of screwing things up are huge. But Barry, stubborn as ever, ignores the advice, captures Martin, and throws him in the particle accelerator prison, thinking he's solved everything. Not quite. Meanwhile, Captain Cold and Heatwave return to Central City, and it's not for a vacation. They have Snart's sister, Lisa, kidnap Cisco. By threatening his brother, they force him to build new weapons. A cold gun, a heat gun, and, to complete the crime family kit, a gold gun for Lisa. Barry's love life also becomes a disaster. Iris rejects him, and to top it off, Eddie punches him in the face. Then it hits him. Thawne was right about not playing Back to the Future. Cisco returns, shake him, and drops the bombshell. Under duress, he was forced to reveal the Flash's identity to Snart.
If I didn't tell him who the Flash really is,
he's screwed. Barry goes after Captain Cold, but instead of a fight, they negotiate. The deal is this: Snart won't reveal Barry's secret, will stop killing innocents, and will stay away from his friends. In return, the Flash won't arrest him. A very strange truce with the devil. To fix things with Iris and Eddie, Caitlin claims Barry is suffering from lightning psychosis, and it actually works. Meanwhile, the Reverse Flash kills the journalist Mason and erases the evidence against Gone. The man's disappearance is the last straw for Barry to finally believe Joe.
I think that maybe you were right about Dr. Wells. All of it.
Barry and Joe are on the trail of a terrorist named Axel Walker, who calls himself the Trickster. He creates a distraction for the Flash and simply frees the original Trickster James Jesse from prison, who's been rotting there for 20 years. Now we have an evil dynamic duo. Jesse and Walker decide to poison a bunch of people at a charity event and demand a ransom for the antidote. When the Flash arrives to crash the party, the duo straps a bomb to him that will explode if he stops running. Basically the movie Speed with superpowers. And who saves the day, ironically? Thawne himself. Over the comms, he teaches Barry how to vibrate his molecules to phase through objects. With this new trick, Barry gets rid of the bomb, delivers the antidote to everyone, and arrests both tricksters.
Do it.
Oh, that felt weird.
Later, the Flash reveals his identity to Eddie, convincing him to stop Iris from investigating Mason's disappearance because things are getting dangerous. Soon after, Barry tells Eddie and Joe Wells is the Reverse Flash. And then comes the episode's bombshell and flashbacks. We see the Reverse Flash right after failing to kill Barry as a child. He tries to escape but loses his speed. The AI Gideon informs him that he's trapped in the past, powerless to return. The solution? Kill the real Harrison Wells, steal his identity, and build the particle accelerator faster so he can get home. A scientist from Mercury Labs, Brie Larvin, appears, using robotic bees to kill her former colleagues. Barry and the team work with Felicity and Ray Palmer, who have come from Starling City. In the end, they manage to arrest Larvin. Dr. Tina tells Barry that Wells's personality changed completely after his wife died. Meanwhile, Iris gives Eddie an ultimatum. Either he tells her his secret or they're over. Barry finally tells Caitlin and Cisco about Wells being the Reverse Flash. Caitlin is in total denial, but Cisco believes him immediately. The reason? He's been having strange dreams. But they're not dreams. They're memories from the other timeline. Memories of him being killed by Wells. Cisco is literally remembering a reality that no longer exists. The next meta of the week is a guy named Hannibal Bates, who can transform into a copy of anyone he touches. Basically, the X-Men's Mystique, Central City edition. He starts his fun by turning into Eddie and framing him for murder, leaving the detective in a real bind. But Bates doesn't stop there. He knocks out Barry and takes on Thawne are speedsters form. His plan was to kill Caitlin and Iris, but he didn't count on Thawne's cunning, who immediately realizes that isn't the real Barry and prevents the tragedy. Bates manages to escape, but Caitlin, ever the genius, creates a serum that nullifies his powers. With that help, Barry defeats the imposter and clears Eddie's name. In the end, Iris makes up with her boyfriend, who reveals he's been working with the Flash. And Bates? He gets a permanent stay in the particle accelerator. Meanwhile, Joe and Cisco play detective and go to Starling City to investigate the accident that killed Wells' wife. With a helping hand from Captain Quentin Lance, they find a body buried near the site. The tests confirm their worst fears. The corpse is the real Harrison Wells. Back at Star Labs, it all sinks in. Barry, Caitlin, and Cisco finally find Thawne's secret room, and inside, the complete villain starter pack, the Reverse Flash suit, and the famous newspaper from the future, dated 2024.
Guys? What the frick?
Barry decides to have a serious chat with Gideon, the AI from the future, and gets a shower of spoilers about his own life. He learns he will fight the Reverse Flash, marry Iris, get a promotion at the CCPD, and even create Gideon himself. Meanwhile, the team uses high-tech glasses to access Cisco's memories from the alternate timeline. They finally see what happened, Thawne confessing everything before killing our engineering genius. With all the cards on the table, Barry tells them about the time travel and comes up with a plan to get a confession out of Thawne for his mother's murder. The trap is set. Cisco protects himself with an inverted force field, while Caitlin records everything. But the plan goes completely wrong. Thawne nearly kills Cisco, but Joe shoots first. However, in a movie-worthy plot twist, the body transforms into Hannibal Bates. The real Thawne calls the team, mocking them and revealing he's always been one step ahead, watching their every move. The Reverse Flash then attacks Iris, but Barry arrives in time. Thawne then kidnaps Eddie. Flash asks Iris to be careful, and as he's about to leave, Iris gets a shock, recognizing Barry.
I swear to you, I will bring him back, all right?
Wait, stop.
To top it all off, Thawne reveals to Eddie that they are related. Flashbacks also show Thawne convincing Joe to let him save Barry's life after the accident, only to whisper to a comatose Barry that one day he will die. While the team searches for Eddie and Thawne, Barry has to deal with a thief at the Gold Reserve but is knocked out by a mysterious psychic attack. Back at the lab, Iris confronts Barry, throwing it in his face that she already knows about his double life as the Flash. We discover the thief was General Eiling, who was being mentally controlled by Grodd. With a clue from Iris, Barry, Joe, and Cisco descend into the sewers to hunt the gorilla. There, they realize Grodd is getting bigger and smarter, and things get ugly when the massive ape kidnaps Joe. Racing against time, Cisco and Caitlin create a headset to protect Barry from the psychic attacks. The device works but is damaged in the fight. In a mental showdown, Barry manages to resist Grodd's power and tricks him into being hit by a train.
Iris.
Eiling is freed, and everything seems resolved, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Iris admits she has feelings for Barry, but states her choice is to stay with Eddie. And to everyone's horror, a scene reveals that Grodd survived. At the same time, we see Thawne finalizing a device to return to his time. He psychologically tortures Eddie, telling him that in the future, Iris and Barry get married. In the end, Thawne activates his machine, revealing he's been hiding in a secret chamber inside Star Labs the whole time. You know why the Reverse Flash is so ridiculous faster than Barry? Cisco finally figures out the secret. Eobard's wheelchair is basically a V8 engine with nitro, supercharging the guy's speed. As the team realizes this, the villain activates the particle accelerator, which he secretly repaired. The team rushes in and manages to rescue Eddie, who, as soon as he's out of captivity, breaks up with Iris. Priorities, right? But the rescue creates another huge problem. All the metahumans imprisoned inside the accelerator will be vaporized when the machine reaches full power. The solution? Transfer them all to Oliver Queen's private prison on Lian-Yu. To organize the transport, Barry makes a deal with the devil. I mean with Leonard Snart. Captain Cold helps, and in return, Barry erases his entire criminal record. But trusting a villain never works out. Leonard and his sister sabotage the transport, free everyone, and even kill one of the metahumans in the process. Just as all hell breaks loose, Eobard returns to Star Labs and finds the accelerator at 100%. Outside, the trio of heroes, Barry, Firestorm, and the Arrow, unite for the final battle.
You can't go out there by yourself.
Yeah, I can.
Ronnie.
Firestorm.
Welcome, Mr. Queen.
In a coordinated attack, Oliver hits the Reverse Flash with a nanite injection that shuts down his super speed and knocks him out. Before leaving, the Arrow warns that he'll meet a favor soon. Barry has a little chat with Thawne in his new luxury cell, and the villain finally comes clean. He killed Nora out of pure hatred for the future Flash, who once saved his life, a first-class grudge, and then comes the indecent proposal. Thawne offers to create a wormhole. He returns to his time, and Barry gets a golden ticket to the past, with a chance to prevent his mother's murder. While Barry mulls over this Trojan horse of an offer, life goes on. Caitlin and Ronnie get married in a quick ceremony. Thawne also reveals to Cisco that his ability to remember other timelines is a bonus from the accelerator explosion. In the end, Barry accepts the deal, despite the warning that he'll have very little time, or the portal will become a black hole and swallow the universe. Barry travels back in time, but when he arrives on that fateful night, he sees his future self gesturing for him not to interfere. How crazy is that? He obeys. Returns to the present and stops Thawne from escaping. The fight begins, and the villain is about to win, but in a cinematic twist, Eddie shoots himself. Since he is Thawne's ancestor, the Reverse Flash simply ceases to exist, like a faded photograph in Back to the Future. The problem is, the wormhole reappears, more unstable than ever, and begins to suck up the city. To prevent its destruction, Barry runs straight into it. To close the black hole, Firestorm teams up with Barry in a desperate maneuver. They succeed, but the victory costs Ronnie his life. 6 months later, the team is disbanded. Barry has become a lone hero, rebuilding the city and hailed by everyone. Cisco is now working with Joe on the police force, and Caitlin has taken a job at Mercury Labs. At a crime scene, Barry investigates the death of a man named Al Rothstein. Later, during a ceremony honoring the Flash, a new villain appears, Atom Smasher. This guy is massive, super strong, and gives Barry a serious beatdown. But our hero manages to rip off the behemoth's mask and is shocked to find the face underneath is identical to Al Rothstein's, the murder victim. The team reunites and convinces Barry that he needs help. Together, they defeat Atom Smasher by making him absorb radiation until he explodes. Before dying, the villain reveals he was sent by someone named Zoom.
Why did you want to kill me?
Zoom.
To make things a little better, Barry receives a flash drive from Wells with his mother's murder confession. Henry Allen is finally free, but he decides to leave town so his son can focus on being the Flash. And just when things seem to be calming down, a stranger appears at Star Labs, introduces himself as Jay Garrick, and drops a bombshell. Their world is in danger. He explains that he was in the middle of a fight with a demonic speedster named Zoom when a wormhole threw him onto our Earth and siphoned his powers in the process. Professor Stein, the team's resident scientist, confirms the story, explaining that our world is Earth 1 and Jay's is Earth 2. Basically, we're in a multiverse. To make matters worse, Zoom isn't playing around and sends an Earth 2 metahuman, Sand Demon, to finish off Barry. Cisco, our favorite nerd, analyzes the sand the villain leaves behind and, upon touching it, has a vision of the previous fight. The guy is totally freaked out with no idea what just happened. Sand Demon kidnaps Officer Patty Spivot, and Jay decides to become Barry's mentor, teaching him how to throw lightning like Zeus. With a new trick up his sleeve and Cisco's powers helping to locate Patty, the plan is set. Barry uses the lightning to turn the villain's sand particles into glass, essentially killing the guy and turning him into a statue, and that's that. After the rescue, Patty reveals to Joe that Martin, that weather-controlling villain, killed her father, which is why she joined the Metahuman Task Force. Cisco tells Stein about his new vibe powers and asks him to keep it a secret. Together, they discover there are 52 breaches to Earth 2, with the largest one ironically located inside Star Labs. To end the episode with more drama, Joe's ex-wife suddenly appears. Professor Stein collapses mid-conversation, and on Earth 2, we discover that their Harrison Wells is alive and in charge of Star Labs. Jay, the Earth 2 Flash, builds a device to stabilize the breach and return home, but at the last minute, he backs out and decides to stay to help the team defeat Zoom, a true hero. Meanwhile, Lisa Snart, Captain Cold's sister, shows up asking for the Flash's help. She swears her brother has been kidnapped. Barry goes after Snart and discovers there was no kidnapping. He's working with his own father, Lewis. Lisa is shocked and says Snart would never do that willingly, as their father was extremely abusive to her when she was a child. The team investigates and uncovers the twisted plan. Lewis planted a bomb in his own daughter to force Snart to help him with a heist. Villainy level, psychopath. Barry infiltrates Lewis's gang with Snart's help, while Cisco, our tech genius, manages to disarm the bomb on Lisa. As soon as his sister is safe, Snart doesn't waste a second. He grabs his cold gun and turns his father into an icicle. Case closed. Snart ends up in Iron Heights, and Lisa leaves town. Amid all the chaos, Joe finally tells Iris that her mother Francine is alive and was an addict. To top off the horror show, Professor Stein suddenly bursts into blue flames like Firestorm, and the Harrison Wells from Earth 2 simply steps through the breach and appears in the middle of the lab. What an unexpected visit. The team manages to stabilize Professor Stein, but the situation is still critical. Caitlin explains that to survive, he needs to merge with another person, like a nuclear tinder. She finds 2 candidates, a scientist named Henry Hewitt and a former football player, Jefferson Jackson, or Jax. Hewitt is super excited about the idea, but the merger fails. He leaves in a rage, unaware that the process has activated his own metahuman powers. Meanwhile, Jax, who initially wanted nothing to do with it, agrees to the merger when Hewitt goes on a rampage and starts destroying the city. The fusion with Jax is a success, and the new Firestorm joins Barry to take down Hewitt, who ends up in custody. Before leaving with Jax, Stein gives Cisco some advice. Tell the team the truth about his powers. In the soap opera subplot of the series, Francine reveals to Iris that she has a terminal illness with only a few months to live. As if that weren't enough, Iris discovers her mother also hid the existence of a brother. Meanwhile, the Earth 2 Wells goes full-on thief and steals a mysterious device from Mercury Labs. And to top it all off, Barry is attacked by a giant humanoid shark sent by Zoom. Yes, a walking, talking shark. Just when all seems lost, who shows up to save him? The Earth 2 Wells himself. This guy is a box of surprises. A new Harrison Wells appears straight from Earth 2. To avoid confusion with the first season's villain, Cisco quickly nicknames him Harry, and he immediately drops a bombshell. He's the one who created Zoom and the other metahumans on his world. Basically, the guy's the Oppenheimer of supervillains, and now he wants to fix his own mess by helping Barry's team. Meanwhile, a new metahuman from Earth 2, Dr. Light, starts robbing banks. The bizarre detail is that she's Linda Park's identical doppelganger. Her plan is on a Parent Trap from Hell level. Kill our Earth's Linda to steal her identity, but the villain is a bit clumsy, misses her target, and ends up killing Linda's boss before being stopped by Team Flash. To find her, Harry, who can't keep a secret, blows the lid on Cisco's powers. Our favorite Nerve then uses his vibes to locate Dr. Light, and Barry defeats her with a little help from the new Wells. With the villain in a cell, they come up with a plan. Use her as bait to lure Zoom. Jay, who already disliked Harry, thinks the idea is garbage and just bails. While the chaos unfolds, romance blossoms. Barry starts dating Patty, and Cisco asks the barista, Kendra, out on a date, even choosing his own hero name, Vide. In the end, we learn Harry's true motivation. Zoom is holding his daughter hostage on Earth 2. The plan to use Dr. Light as bait goes down the drain because the villain simply vanishes from her cell. No problem. The team improvises with Plan B. Our Linda Park will pose as her evil doppelganger. It's like forced cosplay to trick the big boss. To convince Linda to go along with this craziness, Barry has to reveal his biggest secret. Hi, it's me, the Flash.
I've made out with the Flash.
While Harry prepares a serum to slow down speedsters, the team sets up a real performance. Linda, dressed as Dr. Light, pretends to fight Barry near one of the interdimensional portals to attract Zoom. But Zoom isn't stupid. He already knew everything, like a movie villain who read the script before the heroes. He ignores the trap, goes after Linda, and then attacks Barry. And it's not a fight, it's a massacre. Zoom is so fast he makes Barry look like a turtle. To rub the victory in everyone's face, he drags Barry's unconscious body through the city, showing off his trophy to the press and the police. It's the speedster version of Bane breaking Batman, a total public humiliation.
Look at your hero. This man is no god.
Back at Star Labs, Zoom phases his hand through Barry's chest, but just in time, Cisco shoots the serum at the villain. Zoom feels the hit, but still manages to escape. In the end, Barry wakes up to discover he can no longer feel his legs. Barry eventually recovers from the paralysis, but the beatdown from Zoom has left a psychological wound. The guy has a mental block and can't use his speed like an artist with no inspiration. Seeing his friend at his lowest, Iris has the best idea possible. Call Barry's dad. Henry Allen arrives with that straight talk a father gives his son and helps Barry overcome his fear. But the city doesn't stop, and guess who's back? Gorilla Grodd. And he has a plan worthy of Planet of the Apes. Create an army of super intelligent gorillas. To do this, he kidnaps Caitlin, who is apparently the only one who can help him. To rescue her, Harry comes up with the most insane and brilliant idea: dress up as the Reverse Flash. Since Grodd saw the old Wells, who is Thawne, as a father, Harry poses as him to trick the giant gorilla. It's the riskiest cosplay in history. The bizarre plan works. He saves Caitlin, and with Barry back in action, they lure Grodd to one of the portals and send him to a gorilla sanctuary on Earth too. Meanwhile, Cisco's love life continues to be weird. Every time he touches Kendra, he has a vision of a person with wings. The first time, he freaks out and runs away, but the second time, he faces the vision and realizes Kendra is the winged woman. The Weather Wizard decides to form a villain squad and breaks the Trickster and Captain Cold out of prison. The plan: get the gang together to take down the Flash, but Snart has his own code of honor, refuses the offer, and even calls Barry to give him the heads up, a respectable anti-hero. Martin and Jesse then move on to Plan B, planting bombs and Christmas presents across the city. The threat is clear: either Barry surrenders, or several families will have a very explosive holiday. But the Star Labs team is smarter. Wells, Cisco, and Jay use science to create a brilliant contraption, sending one of the bombs into a dimensional breach, which then attracts all the others like a magnet. Problem solved. With the city safe, Barry easily captures the villainous duo and also stops Patty from taking justice into her own hands and killing Martin. Speaking of tense moments, Iris and Barry finally tell Joe about the son he never knew he had. And just like a soap opera, the kid, Wally West, shows up at their door that very day.
Hi, I'm Wally. I'm Francine's son.
Meanwhile, a romance begins to blossom between Caitlin and Jay. To cap it off with a golden reveal, the big twist comes. Zoom has been sending all these metahumans to Central City on purpose. His goal is to make Barry faster, so he can then steal the entire Speed Force for himself. And the worst part, Harry is helping Zoom, forced to do so to protect his daughter Jessie. Cisco, always the brains of the operation, has a new idea to slow down Zoom, a metahuman he nicknames the Turtle. The guy's power is basically hitting the pause button on real life, stopping the kinetic energy around him and leaving everyone in slow motion. Barry tries to capture the villain, whose real name is Russell Glosson, but the guy is more slippery than he looks. The team then sets a trap at a museum. Barry takes the opportunity to invite Patty, planning to finally tell her he's the Flash. Bad idea. The Turtle already knew about the trap, almost sends Patty to an early grave, and manages to escape again. Not satisfied, the villain then kidnaps Patty. The team tracks him down, and this time, Barry has to run like never before, generating enough speed to break through the Turtle's slowness waves and save his girlfriend. But the happy ending doesn't last. After all the trauma, Patty decides she's had enough of Central City and leaves, leaving Barry heartbroken. To make matters worse, Harry shows his sinister side and kills the Turtle just to extract material from his brain to study his powers. Meanwhile, Joe tries to connect with the newly arrived Wally, but discovers the kid is into street racing to pay for his mother's hospital bills. And to end the episode on a downer, Caitlin discovers that Jay is dying from a mysterious illness, because Zoom stole his speed, and the only way to cure him is to defeat the villain and get his speed back. The team finds the Turtle dead, and Jay immediately points the finger at Harry, suspecting something fishy is going on. Meanwhile, Cisco asks Harry himself for help controlling his vibe powers, which are more out of control than a reality show. Harry figures out that Cisco's visions are triggered by fear, and decides to give him a little scare to test it. A vision that sends a chill down everyone's spine. The Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, is back.
Hi, Cisco. Fear.
Harry theorizes that this is a version of Thawne from the future, like a backup that wasn't deleted when the timeline changed. Before the team can process this, Cisco has another vision and discovers the villain's plan, to use tachyons to hitch a ride back to his own time. Barry arrives at the speed of light and breaks Thawne's toy. An insane race ensues through the city, but our hero comes out on top and imprisons the Reverse Flash in the particle accelerator. But locking him up causes a glitch in the Matrix, and Cisco starts to fade away, like Marty McFly in the family photo. To save his friend, Barry has no choice. He has to release Thawne and send him back to the future. Amid this chaos, Patty finally puts the pieces together and figures out that Barry is the Flash. He denies it, and she, heartbroken, decides to leave town. To wrap up the drama, Iris learns her mother is on her last legs and makes peace with her, advising Wally to do the same. Before the particle accelerator explosion, a guy named Joey Monteleone was thrown into a tar pit and left for dead. 2 years later, he re-emerges, now with the power to turn into molten tar and hell-bent on revenge against those who tried to kill him. Basically, a villain straight out of a B horror movie. Meanwhile, Harry, playing double agent, installs a device in Barry's suit to steal some of his speed. He delivers the package to Zoom, who, like any good villain, wants more. In the midst of this betrayal, Harry and Barry also figure out how to close the breaches between Earths. The problem is, stealing speed has consequences. During a fight with Joey, Barry is too slow and can't save Iris, who ends up getting hurt. Overcome with guilt, Harry confesses everything to the team. He explains he only did it to save his daughter and asks to return to Earth 2, suggesting that Barry close all the breaches to trap Zoom on the other side. After neutralizing Joey, Barry makes a true hero's decision. Instead of abandoning Harry, he promises the entire team will help him rescue Jesse. Across town, Wally deals with grief in his own way, by continuing to participate in illegal street races. The Earth 2 mission is about to begin. Before leaving, Barry closes all the dimensional breaches, leaving just one open at Star Labs as their gateway. Barry, Cisco, and Harry jump to the other side, but the trip goes wrong. A power surge destabilizes the portal, and the trio gets trapped on Earth 2. With no way back, Barry comes up with the idea of posing as his doppelganger to investigate Zoom. He soon discovers that this universe is a twisted mirror version of his own. Iris is a cop married to him, and Joe, instead of a cop, is a lounge singer. The weirdness doesn't stop there. He's attacked by the evil versions of Caitlin and Ronnie, known as Killer Frost and Deathstorm. In the middle of the fight, Earth 2 Joe dies. Cisco tries to help and comes face to face with his own doppelganger Reverb, who's like a souped up version of him, with powers to control the nervous system and manipulate vibrations. Barry arrives to save his friend, but is intercepted by the evil duo. That's when Zoom shows up, kills his own henchman for daring to touch the Flash, and kidnaps Barry. Meanwhile, on Earth 1, a new metahuman emerges. Jay confesses to Caitlin that he invented Velocity 6, the drug that both gave and took away his speed. Caitlin, the team's brilliant scientist, creates Velocity 7. Jay uses the new formula to fight the villain, but the guy manages to escape. On Earth 2, things are heating up. Zoom demands that the city hand over Wells, and to show he's not messing around, he attacks Star Labs. Wells and Cisco barely escape with the Earth 2 Barry, who is basically the Barry we know, just without powers and more nerdy. The trio goes to Iris 2, who is a tough-as-nails cop here, and explains the whole situation. The only way out is to ask for help from Killer Frost, the villainous version of Caitlin. After some trouble convincing her, she agrees to lead them to Zoom's hideout. There, they manage to rescue our Barry and Jesse, but of course, Zoom shows up to crash the party. The plan only succeeds because Killer Frost freezes the villain, giving everyone time to escape. The problem is, they leave behind a mysterious prisoner who is trying to say something about Jay. Meanwhile, on Earth 1, Caitlin creates a new speed drug, Velocity 9. Jay uses it to stop a villain and discovers a side effect. The drug also cures his illness. With everything seeming to be fine, the team stabilizes the breach to bring everyone back. Barry, Cisco, Harry, and Jesse cross through safely, but at the last second, as the breach is closing, Zoom's arm phases through the portal, stabs Jay in the chest, and pulls him back to Earth 2.
You did it! You made it!
The team barely has time to breathe before another problem arises. That shark monster Harry took down, King Shark, escapes from Argus and heads to Central City with a single goal, turning the Flash into fish bait. To make matters worse, Diggle and Lila, who is now the head of Argus, show up to warn Barry of the danger. King Shark, whose real name is Shay Lambden, is like a speedster GPS. He tracks Barry's electricity and shows up at his house. Argus arrives and forces the beast to retreat. Barry then devises a plan worthy of an action movie. He lures King Shark into the water and creates an electrified underwater cyclone to fry the guy's system. The plan works, and Argus captures him again, with Lila promising to try to find a cure. Barry, now more determined than ever, vows to reopen a portal to Earth 2 and put an end to Zoom. Behind the scenes, the mood is heavy. Barry and Wally can't seem to get along, and Caitlin is ice cold after Jay's death. Cisco is afraid she'll turn into Killer Frost, but she assures him she's just grieving. And now, the bombshell. Back on Earth 2, we see Zoom take off his mask, and the person underneath is none other than Jay.
Well, is a complication.
Barry is focused on getting faster so he can take on Zoom. But during a night out with friends to relax, a new female speedster shows up and robs everyone at the club. Her name is Trajectory, and she's a scientist from Mercury Labs who used the Velocity 9 samples Caitlin gave her. Basically, she created a bootleg version of the drug. Trajectory breaks into Star Labs, traps Barry, and demands more Velocity 9. To show she's not messing around, she threatens Jesse's life. With no choice, Wells and Caitlin prepare another dose for her, and she leaves to wreak havoc on the city. Barry manages to break free and goes after her. He stops her just as she's about to inject herself with another dose, but it's too late. Her speed becomes so intense that her lightning turns blue, and she simply disintegrates into thin air.
Lightning. It's turning blue.
Shocked by all of this, Jessie decides to leave town to live on her own. Trajectory's death flips a switch in Barry's head. The Velocity 9 overdose, the blue lightning, Jay's illness, it all connects to Zoom. To seal the deal, Cisco has a vibe and sees Zoom taking off his mask. Now there's no doubt, and the team comes to the horrifying conclusion: Jay Garrick is Zoom.
Zoom.
Barry decides to pull his own back to the future and travels back in time to when Hartley Rathaway, the Pied Piper, attacked the team. The plan? Swap places with his past self to ask Thawne, who is still disguised as Dr. Wells, for help in getting faster. But time travel has a price, and it comes in the form of a time wraith, which is like a dementor for speedsters, and starts hunting Barry. To make matters worse, Thawne, who is anything but a fool, immediately realizes this Barry is a future version. Still, after a good chat, he agrees to help. The Time Wraith invades Star Labs, forcing Caitlin and Cisco to accept help from Hartley, their enemy at the time, to drive the creature away. In the midst of the confusion, the past Barry shows up, leaving everyone baffled and forcing the future Barry to explain the temporal mess. Thawne keeps his promise and gives future Barry his research on tachyon technology. As he's about to return home, the Time Wraith attacks again, and past Barry has to intervene to ensure his future self can escape. Back in his own time, the Time Wraith corners Barry, but who shows up to save the day? Hartley himself, who in this new timeline is a reformed hero and uses his sonic gloves to defeat the creature. To wrap things up, Barry gives Iris a video of Eddie he recorded in the past, giving her the push she needs to finally move on. We open with a heavy flashback on Earth 2. A young hunter Zolomon watches his own father murder his mother and ends up in an orphanage. You can already see the childhood trauma here is on a Bruce Wayne level, only much darker. Back in the present, Barry tests a tachyon enhancer and becomes 4 times faster. The guy is practically the Roadrunner. Excited, he decides he's going to reopen a breach to Earth 2 and take on Zoom once and for all. And the key to this is Cisco's powers. Meanwhile, Caitlin discovers that Jay's doppelganger on Earth 1 is named Hunter Zolomon. Upon hearing the name, Wells is shocked and drops a bombshell. On Earth 2, Zolomon was a serial killer who gained powers during the particle accelerator explosion while undergoing electroshock therapy. The team finally connects the dots. Jay was Zoom all along. Cisco opens the breach, and Zoom comes through instantly, chasing Barry to Star Labs. There, Barry tries to use photos of Zolomon's parents as a distraction to trap him, but the villain escapes and delivers a horror movie-worthy line: "You can't lock up the darkness."
Lock up the darkness.
To make matters worse, Zolomon kidnaps Wally and demands Barry's speed in exchange for the kid's life. With no choice, Barry accepts. Wells uses a device to drain all of his speed force, leaving our hero powerless. Zolomon injects himself with the speed and before fleeing, kidnaps Caitlin. Barry is now just Alan. No speed, no suit, just the depression of being a normal guy again. While he adjusts, Wells goes to find Jessie. He finds her but is kidnapped by someone named Griffin Grey, who mistakes him for the Earth One Wells and demands a cure for his powers. This new metahuman has super strength, but with a bizarre side effect. Every time he uses it, he ages faster, like a reverse Benjamin. Barry quickly figures out his weakness, and the team devises a somewhat cruel plan. They trick Griffin into using his strength until he ages to death. Bizarre. With the villain of the week out of the way, Wells has a crazy idea. Recreate the particle accelerator explosion to give Barry his powers back. Basically, let's try our luck and see if we don't blow up the city again. Meanwhile, on Earth 2, Zoom reveals to Caitlin that he kidnapped her because he's in love with her. Toxicity level 1000. There, she meets her doppelganger, Killer Frost, also a prisoner. The villain convinces her to help her escape, but at the first opportunity, she tries to kill her. Zoom appears, kills Killer Frost to protect Caitlin, and warns her not to free the man in the iron mask.
Try that with him, he dies too.
To top it off, Hunter decides he's going to conquer the multiverse and takes Caitlin back to Earth One with him, while Barry is on a no-thanks basis with Harrison's plan to recreate the explosion that gave him his powers. The team has to make do. They create a hologram of the Flash to go around stopping crimes and keep up appearances. To complete the team, Barry's father, Henry, returns to Central City and immediately starts beef with Wells, questioning if blowing everything up again is really a good idea. Spoiler, it's not. And speaking of bad ideas, Hunter and Caitlin return from Earth 2. Zoom wastes no time in declaring the city is now his. In the midst of this chaos, Iris finally musters the courage to confess her feelings for Barry. About time, right? But the romance will have to wait because a new villain appears. Earth 2's Dante Ramon, aka Rupture, who wants to destroy Cisco for supposedly killing his brother. Zoom, being the terrible boss he is, sends Rupture to attack the police. Barry and the cops manage to handle the guy, but then Zoom himself appears, kills everyone, including Rupture for failing, and announces to the whole city that the Flash is gone. Seeing the devastation, Barry finally gives in and accepts Harrison's crazy plan. But things go horribly wrong. During the process, Barry simply disintegrates, and as if that weren't enough, Wally and Jessie are hit full on by the energy wave.
Expecto Patronum!
After the explosion, Wally wakes up, but Jessie remains in a coma. But then Cisco has one of his vibes and discovers the unthinkable. Barry isn't dead, he's alive, but trapped inside the Speed Force, which is like the Matrix for speedsters. Inside, Barry encounters the Speed Force itself, which manifests using familiar faces to have a chat with him. The mission is clear: to get his powers back, he needs to catch a mysterious shadow that won't stop running. Cisco and Wells manage to open a portal to rescue him, but Barry, in true I need to earn this fashion, decides to stay and complete the quest. The Speed Force then gives him a reality check. He'll only be the Flash again when he finally gets over his mother's death. After a moment of cosmic therapy with the version of his mother, Barry finally accepts his past, catches the shadow, and regains his powers, now supercharged. With help from Cisco and Iris, he returns to the lab just in time to save the team from a zombie Tony Woodward, who decided to crash the party. As a bonus, he even uses some of the Speed Force energy to wake Jessie from her coma. But while the team celebrates, Zoom has already prepared his next move: an entire army of metahumans from Earth 2, ready to turn Central City into an evil amusement park.
Whose world is this?
Caitlin finally rejoins the team, but she's clearly shaken after everything she's been through with Zoom. Can't blame her. Meanwhile, his army of metahumans begins to terrorize Central City. Barry, now faster and more confident than ever, zips around the city putting out fires and knocking out villains like he's playing on easy mode. This swagger, however, worries the team, who think he's underestimating the danger. Among the villains is Black Siren, Laurel Lance's doppelganger, who uses her sonic screams to demolish buildings. On the other side, Wally, wanting to repay the Flash, starts playing hero on his own. Seeing things are getting out of control, the team comes up with a brilliant plan. They create a sonic amplifier tuned to Earth-2's frequency. When they activate it, all Earth-2 natives instantly pass out, allowing Barry to round them all up. Victory seems certain, but Zoom manages to escape back to his Earth. Shortly after, Cisco has a terrifying vision of Earth-2 being destroyed, but before they can process it, Zoom returns, kidnaps Henry in front of everyone, and speeds off. Barry chases after him, revealing his identity to Wally in the process, and is forced to watch the most devastating scene possible. Zoom killing his father right in front of him.
Mother and I love.
Zolomon gives Barry the slip using a dirty trick. He creates a time remnant to escape. It's like using a cheat code in the game of life. Soon after, Henry's funeral takes place, and the atmosphere is incredibly heavy. To make matters worse, Hunter shows up and challenges Barry to a race, basically a let's see who's fastest showdown. If Barry refuses, he promises to kill everyone the hero loves. No pressure. To amp up the tension, Harrison discovers the villain's plan, to use a crazy machine called a magnetar. The idea is to use their combined speed to power this device and destroy every planet in the multiverse, except for Earth-1. Barry, blinded by rage and seeking revenge, is ready to accept, but the team thinks he's not thinking straight and locks him in the Star Labs pipeline. They try to handle it themselves, but the plan backfires, and Zolomon kidnaps Joe. That's when Wally steps in, finds out what happened, and frees Barry, who has no choice but to race. During the race, Barry has a brilliant idea. He uses Zolomon's own trick and creates a time remnant. This remnant manages to save Joe and destroy the machine, but dies in the process. The original Barry then beats Zolomon to a pulp, who is then taken away by the Time Wraiths, the Dementors of the timeline. In the end, we find out who the man in the iron mask was, the real Jay Garrick, who is the spitting image of Barry's father, but from Earth-3. After Wells and Jesse return to Earth-2 with Jay, Barry, feeling completely broken, makes the biggest mistake of all. He runs back in time and stops Thawne from killing his mother. After saving his mother, Barry returns to the present with Eobard Thawne in tow, locking him in a power dampening cage. The villain dubs this new reality Flashpoint.
You'll be begging me to kill her again.
In this seemingly perfect world, Barry's parents are alive, but everything else is a mess. Joe is a washed-up cop, Cisco is a Tony Stark-esque billionaire, and Caitlin is a pediatrician. Oh, and Central City has a new Flash, Kid Flash, who's struggling to handle a villain named Arrival. The problem is, Barry starts forgetting his old life, as if the new reality is becoming permanent. He discovers that Kid Flash is Wally, and decides to help. They manage to stop the rival, but Wally is critically injured in the fight. That's when it hits him. This new world is far worse for the people he loves. With a heavy heart, Barry is forced to do the unthinkable. He releases Thawne and lets him go back in time to kill his mother again, resetting the timeline. Back in the normal present, he discovers the damage isn't fully undone. The timeline didn't revert 100%, and to prove it, Joe and Iris haven't spoken in months. To top it all off, the rival is visited by a mysterious voice and sees the word alchemy being etched onto his mirror by an invisible force. Barry starts to feel the consequences of meddling with time. He really screwed up. Iris won't forgive Joe for lying about her mother. Cisco is pissed at Barry for not going back in time to save his brother Dante, and to top it off, he gets a new partner at the CCPD, Julian Albert, a guy who clearly can't stand him. Barry's first instinct is, of course, to go back in time again to fix the mess. But this time, he's stopped by Jay Garrick, his father's doppelganger. Jay gives him a lecture like a disappointed grandfather, explaining that the timeline never resets perfectly, and that he needs to learn learned to live with his mistakes. Meanwhile, the rival starts having visions of Flashpoint and finds the one responsible, the so-called Alchemy, who restores his powers and memories. Alchemy says he's preparing for a future event. Barry finally tells the team what he did, and Cisco, despite his anger, helps him face the rival. The fight helps them patch things up. Now, the team's mission is to find other Flashpoint metahumans before Alchemy gets to them. At least one good thing happens. Iris and Joe make peace. But secretly, we discover that Caitlin now has ice powers in full-on Killer Frost style. And in prison, the rival is killed by a metallic creature after being scolded by Alchemy's voice for his failure. The new big bad doesn't tolerate failure. Harry and Jesse are back on Earth 1, but with an upgrade. The girl now has super speed, courtesy of that second dark matter explosion. Harry, in full-on overprotective dad mode, hopes everyone can convince her not to become a hero. Meanwhile, we meet Frankie Kane, a girl suffering at the hands of her foster parents. Her trauma is so severe that she develops a second personality, Magenta, who has magnetic powers like Magneto. And the first thing Magenta does is attack her abusive foster father. Julian, always in the wrong place at the wrong time, confronts Frankie and almost gets turned into a crumpled paperclip by Magenta. Barry discovers that the one who gave her powers was the infamous Alchemy. Magenta escapes and decides to finish the job, heading to the hospital to drop a tanker ship onto the building where her father is. Barry acts fast, creating a vortex to hold the massive vehicle, but his hands are tied, unable to deal with Magenta at the same time. That's when Wells gets an idea. Send Jessie to help. She takes over the vortex, freeing Barry to do what he does best after running, talk. He manages to calm Frankie down and get her to take control of the situation. Meanwhile, Wally is super bummed out for not having powers, but realizes he's having the same Flashpoint dreams Frankie described. Wells finally accepts his daughter's decision and even gives her a brand new suit. To top it all off, Joe shows Barry and Julian the recording of Clarice's death in prison. He was attacked by an invisible force, which only appears as a white ball of light flying around the cell. Bizarre. 3 years ago, Sam Scudder and Rosalind Dillon, former cronies of Captain Cold, were also caught in the particle accelerator explosion. Back in the present, Barry is training Jessie. Meanwhile, Harry wants to find a doppelganger of himself from another Earth to take his place, so he and Jessie can go home. That's when Scudder resurfaces. He was trapped in a mirror dimension and can now teleport through any reflective surface. Basically, the guy has become a horror movie villain. He teams up with Dillon, who now has the power to induce vertigo, and the two go on a crime spree. Barry and Jessie, now using the codename Jessie Quick, go after the duo but get their butts kicked. Scudder manages to trap Barry inside a mirror. With no way out, Caitlin secretly decides to use her ice powers to help Barry break free. In round 2, Barry and Jessie finally manage to capture Mirror Master and the Top. Yes, those are their names. After holding a sort of the voice for Harrison Wells, the team recruits the eccentric H.R. Wells from Earth 19, even though Harry thinks the guy is a total fraud. Jessie and her dad return to Earth 2, but not before Harry plants a seed of doubt in Cisco's mind about Barry's suspicious escape. And to make matters worse, that night, Caitlin accidentally freezes her shower water and her appearance begins to change, looking frighteningly similar to her doppelganger, Killer Frost. Caitlin is so desperate about her powers that she seeks out her mother, whom she hasn't spoken to in years, to run some tests. The problem is, the visit doesn't end well. She loses control and attacks a scientist who wanted to exploit her situation and leaves in a rage. Meanwhile, a giant creature like a kaiju from a Japanese monster movie starts appearing and disappearing on the streets of Central City. Cisco is already suspicious of the new HR, who is absolutely no help in solving the problem, and his suspicion is confirmed. The monster is just a hologram controlled by a 15-year-old kid who is being bullied and wanted to get revenge by scaring everyone. Barry exposes the hoax just in time to stop the police from firing on civilians and prevents Julian from shooting the boy. Thinking he was a meta-human, HR finally confesses he knows nothing about science. He's just an idea man who came to Earth 1 to find inspiration for a book. Despite being a massive con artist, the team decides to give him a chance to prove himself. After the scare, Julian and Barry finally make peace, but Caitlin's peace is short-lived. Her mother calls with the worst possible news. Her powers are growing, and if she doesn't stop using using them, her transformation into Killer Frost will be irreversible. Wally is having crazy dreams where he's Kid Flash, and Barry finally comes clean, telling him it's all because of Flashpoint. Meanwhile, a new meta emerges, whom HR dubs Shade, a guy who is simply murdering stockbrokers. Speaking of secrets, Caitlin reveals to Cisco that she's become a real-life Elsa with ice powers. She asks him to use his Vide powers to check her future, and what he sees is not good, himself fighting Killer Frost, Caitlin's evil alter ego. To make matters worse, the season's villain, Alchemy, is calling to Wally with a psychic siren song. To protect the kid, the team locks him in the particle accelerator pipeline. Amidst the chaos, they manage to stop and capture Shade, but the peace is short-lived as Cisco forces Caitlin to tell everyone the truth about her powers. Soon after, Barry privately confesses to her that her powers are also a side effect of Flashpoint. Wally, who can no longer bear the pain from the memories, offers himself as bait to catch Alchemy once and for all. Barry, Joe, and a SWAT team find Alchemy's cult, but things get sinister. A giant metal being appears, and he's a speedster only Barry can see. While Barry gets a brutal beatdown from this new enemy, Alchemy convinces Wally to touch a strange stone, which encases him in a crystal cocoon. The metal speedster introduces himself as Savitar, and after humiliating Barry, prepares to finish him off with a blade that extends from his own arm.
Savitar, the god of speed.
Savitar isn't content with just defeating Barry. He decides to drag him all over the city, just to show who's boss. Luckily, Cisco and Caitlin arrive to save their friend, and Savitar vanishes into thin air. But the rescue comes at a price. Caitlin's evil persona, Killer Frost, takes complete control. She storms the police station and starts interrogating one of Alchemy's followers with fists and ice. Julian catches her in the act, but Killer Frost coerces him into helping her find the rest of the cult, believing Alchemy can take away her powers. Barry and Cisco find and imprison Caitlin, but the team is already fractured. To add fuel to the fire, she reveals to everyone that the death of Dante, Cisco's brother, was Barry's fault due to Flashpoint. The Vide at headquarters turns sour. To make matters worse, Joe, acting like a desperate father, shatters Wally's cocoon. The kid emerges with super speed but is completely out of control and vanishes. In a heroic act, Barry offers his own life to Killer Frost in exchange for her freedom. The tactic works and brings the real Caitlin back, who agrees to help cure Wally. They find him and stabilize him with the serum. Now, with his powers under control, Wally finally becomes the hero he always dreamed of being. Julian even agrees not to turn Caitlin in, but on one condition: Barry has to resign from the CCPD. And for the grand finale, we discover that Julian is, in fact, Alchemy himself, working for Savitar all along.
Can we bring about my return? Become Alchemy.
Barry decides that to catch a bad speedster, he needs a good one, and calls on Jay Garrick for help against Savitar. The dynamic duo manages to locate and defeat Alchemy, securing his weapon in a box. This causes Savitar to simply vanish into thin air, just as he was about to finish off Jay, and the big reveal: Alchemy is none other than Julian. To get some information, Barry comes clean and reveals he's the Flash. Julian explains that he started having visions of his deceased sister and found the so-called Philosopher's Stone, but has been experiencing blackouts ever since. Suddenly, Savitar decides to manifest himself using Cisco as a puppet, complete with visions of his late brother Dante. The god of speed goes after Barry and Wally, but Caitlin manages to snap Cisco back to reality, making him close the box again. The team then uses Julian to communicate with Savitar, who delivers a grim prophecy. In the future, Barry himself will imprison him, and there's more. One of the team will betray them all, one will die, and a third will suffer a fate worse than death. To end the threat, Barry and Jay hurl the box into the Speed Force, but the plan backfires. Barry is thrown 5 months into the future and witnesses Savitar murdering Iris. Jay tries to calm him, saying the future isn't set in stone. In the end, Wally gets his Kid Flash suit, Julian gets Barry's job back for him, and the couple Barry and Iris rent a new apartment. Barry is having horrible nightmares about Iris's death, and things are only getting worse. A criminal named Jared Murillo shows up to cause trouble, but Barry freezes. He remembers a news report he saw in the future about himself capturing someone named Plunder, and this distraction allows the villain to escape. Meanwhile, HR opens the Star Labs Museum, but the place is emptier than a party on a Monday. In the second confrontation with Murillo, Wally steps in and captures the guy, earning praise from everyone except Barry, who is acting super weird. Eventually, the pressure becomes too much, and Barry tells everyone except Joe about the vision he had of the future. The team then devises a plan. Let's change the future. If they alter the events leading up to Iris's death, maybe they can save her. Using Cisco, Barry accesses the future memory again and discovers other events. The Star Labs Museum will close, and Caitlin will become Killer Frost. To start changing things, Barry decides to let Wally capture Murillo, and it works. To top it off, Cisco has the idea to relaunch the museum with an exhibit for kids, which becomes a huge success. Caitlin convinces Julian to join the team, and for the grand finale, a mysterious woman from another Earth suddenly appears looking for HR. The mysterious woman is a bounty hunter from Earth 19 named Gypsy, and she has powers similar to Cisco's. Her mission? To take HR back to be tried and executed, since interdimensional travel is a capital offense over there. To save his friend, Cisco demands a trial by combat for HR's life. Since the fight is to the death, Barry and HR try to ambush Gypsy, but get beaten so badly, it's embarrassing. Meanwhile, Iris, wanting to leave a legacy, decides to play the hero and bust an arms dealer on her own, acting as if she has no fear of death. Luckily for her, Wally shows up to save the day. Back at the lab, Julian discovers a flaw in Gypsy's fighting style. Cisco uses this weakness during their duel and manages to win. He spares her life, and Gypsy agrees to lie, saying she killed HR this way. He can stay, but he can never go home again. Joe is furious at Iris's lack of fear, sensing something is wrong. Seeing all this, Barry comes up with a new plan: to train Wally to become so fast that he'll be the one to save Iris from Savitar in the future. Barry and Wally continue their training to save Iris from Savitar. The two have a race, and Barry wins by phasing through a building like Shadowcat from the X-Men.
Ready? Get set. Go.
Meanwhile, Julian finds a body that looks like something out of a horror movie. The corpse is rapidly decomposing, but the victim died only 8 hours ago. He warns Joe that this can only be the work of a metahuman. The body is taken to Star Labs, where Caitlin and Julian watch the bizarre scene of the corpse turning to dust. Iris opens up to Barry, confessing she's terrified of the future that awaits her. The metahuman responsible for the horror, a man named Clive Yorkin, attacks Joe. We learn that he is hunting the police officers who arrested him in the Flashpoint reality. The guy tries to disintegrate the bridge Joe's train is crossing, forcing Barry to do the impossible: vibrate the entire train to pass through the wreckage. After that, Barry decides to teach Wally the phasing trick, and the kid learns fast. He uses his new ability to touch the meta, inject his own blood, and neutralize his powers. After nearly turning to dust, Joe demands that everyone stop hiding things from him, especially about Iris's future death. And to top it all off, while Wally is practicing phasing, he has a vision of Jessie emerging from a portal. She brings news. Her father has been kidnapped by Grodd and taken to Gorilla City. Harry was captured in the middle of the jungle. Jessie explains that he was leading an expedition to Gorilla City that was ambushed. Everyone else died, and Harry vanished. Barry remembers a future news report about a gorilla attack on Central City. He, Julian, Cisco, and Caitlin go on a rescue mission, but they fall into a trap and are captured by Grodd. Speaking through Harry's body like something out of a possession movie, Grodd asks for Barry's help to overthrow his master, Solovar. Barry agrees to fight Solovar in an arena, like a gladiator, to save his friends' lives. He wins, but refuses to kill the massive gorilla. Grodd doesn't care, seizes control of Gorilla City anyway, and immediately begins planning an invasion of Earth-1. Desperate, Cisco asks Caitlin to kill him so Grodd can't use his powers to open a portal. She, obviously, refuses. So Barry comes up with a movie-worthy plan. He fakes his own death. Grodd, thinking he's rid of the speedster, removes him from the cage. Barry reanimates, frees everyone, and they return to Earth-1. Jessie and her father are finally reunited, and she and Wally get back together.
What would you think about that?
I see that.
A shy Julian asks Caitlin out on a date, but the peace is short-lived. The final scene shows Grodd assembling his army with a vacant-eyed and completely hypnotized Gypsy by his side.
Like I told Flash, always think ahead. Central City will fall before Grodd.
Jessie informs her father that she plans to stay on Earth 1 with Wally, and Harry, in full-on overprotective dad mode, tries to stop her. Suddenly, Gypsy attacks Team Flash, but they manage to subdue her and discover she's being controlled by Grodd, whose troops have already arrived in the city. Using his powers, Cisco foresees that the guerrillas will attack the city center, but it's just a distraction, a masterstroke for Grodd to kidnap a visiting army general. Barry starts considering the idea of killing Grodd, thinking it's the only way to stop him and change the future, but Harry advises him to find another way. Mind-controlling the general, Grodd tries to launch a nuclear missile strike on the city. Barry thwarts the attack, so Grodd moves to Plan B, a full-scale invasion with his guerrilla army. Cisco has a brilliant idea. To beat a gorilla, you need another gorilla. He travels to Earth 19 to ask for the real Gypsy's help. The speedsters distract the soldiers while Cisco and Gypsy bring Solovar into the fight. The Gorilla King defeats Grodd and retakes leadership. The gorillas return to Earth 2, and Grodd is handed over to Argus. Gypsy gives Cisco a kiss before she leaves. And in a moment of peace, Barry proposes to Iris, but the tranquility is shattered when Wally has a terrifying vision of Savitar right in front of him. Wally keeps having sinister visions of Savitar, and after getting into a brawl with the villain in an alley, he finally comes clean with the team. They then try to hold a seance with Savitar, using Julian as a medium to communicate with the evil speedster. During the conversation, a cryptic Savitar hints that the Philosopher's Stone might not have truly disappeared into the Speed Force. And then comes the bombshell. Caitlin confesses she kept a piece of the stone, hoping to use it to get rid of her ice powers. With this information, the team puts the pieces together and realizes that Savitar is actually trapped inside the Speed Force. The problem is, Wally, who's at home with Jessie, doesn't get the memo in time. Savitar, a master manipulator, appears to him disguised as his deceased mother, hitting him right where it hurts. Completely deceived, Wally rushes to the lab, steals the stone fragment, creates a portal, and throws the artifact in, thinking he's banishing the villain for good, but the plan backfires spectacularly. The portal sucks Wally in, trapping him in the Speed Force. And who comes out? Savitar himself, free and clear. He goes after Barry and drops the cruelest spoiler of all. He's not going to kill him, but he's going to make him watch Iris die. Fueled by pure rage, Barry uses his vibrating hand to shatter the blade on Savitar's arm, which startles the villain into a hasty retreat. With Wally trapped in the Speed Force, Barry is drowning in guilt. Determined to fix his mistake, he decides to play the hero and dive headfirst into the dimension to rescue his brother-in-law. Cisco gives him a boost, vibrating Barry into the speedster dimension. But inside, it's no walk in the park. He encounters spectral versions of fallen friends and foes, like Eddie and Ronnie. This time, they're not messing around, acting as sinister motivational coaches, forcing Barry to understand true sacrifice and that the responsibility of saving Iris in the future is his alone. As a bonus, he also has to face a manifestation of his old enemy, Hunter Zolomon, and defeat him. Meanwhile, Cisco doesn't waste any time and calls for backup. Jay Garrick, the Flash of Earth 3, shows up in the Speed Force and, in a heroic act, offers to take Wally's place, like a cosmic prisoner exchange. With that, Barry and Wally manage to escape. Back on the outside, Jessie doesn't sit still. She uses the piece of Savitar's armor to track him down and takes him on alone, even managing to wound the villain before he flees. After the fight, she decides to go to Earth 3 to protect it until the team can free Jay. In a tearful conclusion, Barry opens his heart to Iris and admits he proposed for the wrong reasons, suggesting they take a break. Abracadabra arrives in town, a criminal from the 64th century who looks like a children's party magician, but with tech for stealing and killing. Right after, Gypsy shows up to hunt him down, as he's an interdimensional problem. Kadabra, ever the trickster, dangles the bait. He'll reveal Savitar's identity if Team Flash lets him escape. Joe, who's at his wit's end with this mystery, throws the rulebook out the window and frees the magician. Bad idea. Kadabra escapes, breaks into Thawne's time vault to grab a power source, and for good measure, causes an explosion that leaves Caitlin in critical condition. At the lab, Caitlin is on the brink of death but refuses to remove the necklace suppressing her powers. Even if it could save her life, life. Instead, she decides to be her own doctor and guides Julian through surgery, like a real-life game of Operation. Meanwhile, the team manages to stop Kadabra from returning to the future with his makeshift time machine. Seeing that everything is going wrong, Barry has the most desperate idea of all: travel to the future to find out how to save Iris. Back at Star Labs, Caitlin's heart stops. Julian, in a sheer act of panic, rips the necklace from her neck. The result? She not only comes back to life, but her wounds heal instantly. She wakes up, but she's no longer Caitlin. She's Killer Frost, ready to turn everyone into popsicles. The first thing Killer Frost does is destroy the necklace that suppressed her powers.
Probably should have made that.
Meanwhile, Barry hits play on his time trip and lands in 2024. He expected to find answers, but what he finds is a dystopian future that looks like a canceled episode of Black Mirror. Cisco lost his powers after Killer Frost shattered his hands and now uses mechanical prosthetics. Wally is catatonic in a wheelchair. The future Barry has become a reclusive emo who hides out in Star Labs. And, to complete the apocalyptic scene, the city has been taken over by two new villains, Top and Mirror Master. Barry obviously doesn't discover Savitar's identity, and to make matters worse, future Cisco traps him there, hoping that past Barry can fix that mess. Barry then rallies what's left of the team and goes into battle. He gets his ass kicked by the villains, until future Barry decides to pull himself out of his existential funk, uses a device from Cisco to nullify the bad guy's powers, and helps defeat them. Finally being useful, future Barry gives him a tip. Find a physicist named Tracy Brand, who created a trap for Savitar years after Iris's death. Meanwhile, in the present, Killer Frost has a meeting with Savitar himself. He steps out of the armor, reveals himself, and from the look on her face, the villain's identity is the most shocking thing she has ever seen.
What do you need me to do?
The team goes after Tracy Brand, the scientist who is their last hope. But since their lives are never easy, Killer Frost shows up to try and turn the woman into an ice cube. They manage to save her and take her to Star Labs, where they show her her own brilliant future to get her inspired. Killer Frost's plan B is worthy of a soap opera. She kidnaps Cecile, Joe's girlfriend, and demands Tracy in exchange. The trade goes wrong, leading to a fight between Cisco and Killer Frost. It's friend against friend. Cisco gets the upper hand, spares her, and even manages to collect a blood sample in hopes of creating a cure. But at the last moment, Savitar appears and saves Killer Frost. In the midst of all this chaos, Joe decides it's the perfect time for a heart-to-heart. He professes his love for Cecile and tells her the whole truth, that his son-in-law and son are superheroes. Meanwhile, HR is more interested in flirting with Tracy than saving the world. Inspired, Tracy begins to design the trap. And then, Barry finally connects the dots. All the clues, all of Savitar's knowledge. It all makes sense. He confronts the villain and asks the million-dollar question. Savitar confirms his suspicion. He is a future version of Barry himself. The Flash's greatest enemy is himself.
Like I told you from the beginning, I am the future Flash.
So Savitar finally drops the bombshell about his identity. He's a time remnant of Barry, like a future clone that went rogue. It turns out that in the future, Barry creates several clones to fight Savitar, and one of them ends up being shunned by Team Flash. Depressed and alone, this remnant goes back in time and becomes Savitar himself. It's a crazy paradox. His plan is to kill Iris to ensure Barry suffers enough to create him. Without her death, he simply ceases to exist. To try and break this loop, Cisco has a brilliant and risky idea: erase Barry's recent memories. If Barry doesn't remember their strategies, neither will Savitar. But of course the plan goes wrong, and Barry is left with total amnesia, not even remembering he's the Flash. As a side effect, Savitar also loses his memory, and Wally's powers, which were given to him by Savitar, simply vanish. To make matters worse, an arsonist is let go because Barry can't even testify properly in court. And who shows up to help? Killer Frost. She gives Cisco and Julian a hand in developing a way to bring Barry's memory back. In the middle of all this, the arsonist strikes again, and it's Iris who, with an emotional speech, manages to make Barry remember everything just in time to put out the fire with Wally's help, who regains his powers. Meanwhile, sparks fly between Tracy and HR, and she finishes the trap to imprison Savitar, which requires a massive power source. The final scene cuts to a location with an alien power source and King Shark. There are only 24 hours until Iris's death, and the mood is one of pure desperation. The team discovers that the only thing that can can power the Speed Force bazooka is Dominator tech held by Argus. The problem? Lila hasn't trusted Barry since the Flashpoint mess and refuses to hand over the device. Out of options, Barry does the unthinkable. He travels back in time and recruits Captain Cold from 1892 to help him break into Argus and steal the part. It's a heist movie within the show. They even get captured, but Lila sees the goodness in Barry's heart and in the end, lets him take the device. Captain Cold even offers some valuable advice. To beat Savitar, Barry needs to use his good side, not his dark one. Meanwhile, Tracy officially joins the team, and Cisco has a vision of his fight with Killer Frost, heading off to settle that score once and for all. Joe comes up with a plan to hide Iris on Earth 2 with Harry and Wally, but Savitar is a master of deception. He poses as Barry, tricks HR, and gets Iris's location out of him. In a matter of seconds, he invades Earth 2 and kidnaps her. Barry uses the bazooka, but it fails. Savitar uses the Philosopher's Stone, which is made of pure Speed Force energy, to nullify the shot. And then, the tragedy happens. In front of a helpless Barry, Savitar stabs Iris and disappears. What a twist! The one who died wasn't Iris, but HR. He used a device to switch places with her and sacrificed himself, dying a true hero. Savitar is furious about the mistake and moves on to Plan B. He kidnaps Cisco and forces him to modify the bazooka, turning it into a quantum splicer that will scatter him throughout the entire timeline, making him an immortal, paradox-proof god. In a last-ditch attempt at redemption, Barry brings Savitar to Star Labs, believing he can still be saved, but it's no use. Savitar rejects the offer, destroys the lab, and orders Killer Frost to kill Cisco, who was only saved by Gypsy's arrival. The final battle begins. Savitar opens a portal, and the Black Flash appears to claim him, but Killer Frost freezes and shatters him. What the villain didn't expect is that Cisco is a genius. He modified the bazooka to free Jay Garrick from the Speed Force prison. Now it's an army of speedsters against one. Barry, Wally, and Jay take on Savitar.
I change your Speed Force splicer into a Speed Force skeleton key.
With Gypsy's help, Cisco convinces Caitlin to finally abandon the side of evil. Barry manages to phase into Savitar's armor, ejecting the villain from it. When the now vulnerable Savitar attempts one last attack, it's Iris who shoots and kills him, saving Barry. In the end, Caitlin decides not to take the cure and leaves to find her own path. But the peace doesn't last. Without a prisoner, the Speed Force becomes unstable. To pay for his mistakes, Barry sacrifices himself, entering the prison and leaving the city in the care of his team. 6 months after Barry entered the Speed Force, Iris leads Team Flash, refusing to accept he's gone. A powerful flying samurai threatens Central City, demanding the Flash. Cisco has devised a way to bring Barry back, but Iris forbids it. The team disobeys, and Barry returns, but completely scrambled, speaking in gibberish and drawing symbols on the walls. Wally faces the samurai but is defeated. To awaken Barry, Iris gives herself up to the villain. The plan works. Barry rescues Iris and discovers the samurai is just a robot, a Samuroid. Caitlin returns to the team but reveals she's been working for a crime boss named Amunet Black while fighting to keep Killer Frost from taking over. The Samuroid was controlled by a super intelligent man in a wheelchair who only wanted to confirm that the Flash was active for his plans.
Well, it worked. The Flash is back in Central City.
It appears. I'm thinking.
Barry, Joe, and Cisco investigate a crime scene with a mysterious code. Cisco gives Barry a new high-tech suit. A meta-human hacker named Ramsey Deacon remotely controls a car. Gypsy visits Cisco, but he needs to focus on the villain. Iris takes Barry to couples therapy. Deacon kidnaps a former partner, and during the rescue, he hacks Barry's suit. Iris suggests Barry use a lightning bolt on himself to short-circuit the suit, which works perfectly. Deacon is captured and sent to Iron Heights. His imprisonment was part of the wheelchair-bound villain's plan. Cisco has has his date with Gypsy. When questioned about his powers, Deacon reveals there are others. In flashbacks, an intelligent man observes Becky Sharp, a woman with extreme bad luck, choosing her as a pawn. In the present, Becky, now with luck-based powers, robs a bank and escapes when Barry slips on marbles. Harry from Earth 2 arrives with bad news. Jesse broke up with Wally. Cisco identifies Becky as a metahuman who generates good luck for herself, but causes bad luck for others. Barry discovers that the Speed Force portal spread dark matter onto a bus, creating new metahumans, including Becky and Deacon. Harry was kicked off his daughter's team. Becky's luck threatens to reactivate the particle accelerator. Harry allows this to happen, as the energy will nullify her powers. Becky is arrested. The team now has a list of 12 new metas to find. Harry suspects that everything has been manipulated by someone. Wally decides to take a sabbatical. The mysterious villain spies on Star Labs through the Samuroid's helmet. Joe finds out Cecile is pregnant. Breacher, Gypsy's father, shows up hunting Cisco and gives him an ultimatum: survive being hunted for 24 hours to earn his approval of their relationship. Team Flash discovers that the bus driver was murdered and finds another passenger, Ralph Dibny, a corrupt ex-detective Barry exposed in the past, now a private investigator. When Ralph is attacked by thugs, he reveals stretching powers similar to Mr. Fantastic. Caitlin stabilizes his powers with a serum. Ralph was blackmailing the mayor over an affair, and the mayor hired the thugs. Barry confronts Ralph, who insists he's a good cop. Ralph gives up the blackmail, but the mayor tries to kill him. Breacher mistakes the mayor for a plastoid and attacks. Cisco saves Ralph, who then helps arrest the mayor. Breacher approves of the relationship. Barry recruits Ralph to Team Flash. They discover DeVoe hired Ralph to surveil the mayor. Barry remembers that Abracadabra and Savitar have mentioned that name before. Caitlin finds a mysterious message on her apartment door. Bachelor and bachelorette parties. Felicity joins Iris's party. Ralph takes the guys to a strip club where they run into Joni, Cecile's daughter, working there. When Joe questions her, she claims it's for feminist research. Ralph starts a fight, getting everyone arrested. Harry bails them out. At the women's party, Aminet's henchman Norvok demands Caitlin return to work for her. She refuses. He attacks, and Killer Frost emerges, kicking him out. Killer Frost reveals that Caitlin made a deal with Amunet to control her. They discover Amunet is holding a meta named the Weeper Prisoner, whose tears are a powerful narcotic she plans to sell. The girls decide to rescue him. Caitlin hesitates, but when her friends are in danger, she attacks Amunet. Using a giant magnet, they steal Amunet's metal shards, leaving her powerless. Iris stops Killer Frost from killing Amunet, who vows revenge. Neither party tells the other about their adventures. Iris asks Caitlin to be her maid of honor. Joe convinces Joni to tell Cecile about her research. DeVoe captures the Weeper. Barry trains Ralph to use his stretching powers. Cisco provides him with a suit that won't tear. A villain named Mina brings statues to life to steal pieces of a sacred tribal necklace. Barry and Ralph find her, and she animates a caveman statue to attack Barry. Ralph tries to stop her, but a little girl gets injured in the process. Ralph feels terrible, but Barry gives him a pep talk. Shaitan escapes and goes to the museum for the final piece. Barry and Ralph confront her again, and she animates a dinosaur skeleton. Barry apprehends Mina while Ralph saves a security guard from the T-Rex. Ralph returns the necklace to the tribe and visits the girl in the hospital, making her laugh with his powers. Harry creates a council of Wells with his doppelgangers from other Earths, who discover the villain's full name, Clifford DeVoe. Barry and Joe go to the address, finding a calm, middle-aged man in a wheelchair.
Can I help you?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm Clifford DeVoe.
Barry and Joe interrogate the DeVoe couple, but get nothing. A flashback shows DeVoe and his wife, Marlies, working on a thinking cap to boost his mind using energy from the particle accelerator explosion. The plan works, but DeVoe's intelligence skyrockets along with an accelerated case of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis that destroys his body. Marlies builds a high-tech chair to keep him alive. In the present, Barry discovers a hidden camera in the Samuroid's head. With the address in hand, he goes to DeVoe's house to spy but is nearly caught by Marlis. Barry confronts DeVoe face-to-face, who reveals his true identity and plan. Cisco dubs the new enemy the Thinker.
A thinker.
Team Flash suffers a double attack. Barry is kidnapped by the Thinker while shopping, and Caitlin is taken by Amunet at Jitters. With limited resources, Harry warns they can only search for one of them. Iris chooses Caitlin. Amunet forces Caitlin to perform surgery on a meta named Dominic, who has telepathic powers. Caitlin and Dominic try to escape, but Amunet blocks their exit. Caitlin neutralizes the villain just long enough to flee. Cisco and Ralph show up to rescue them. Barry escapes the Thinker's captivity on his own. Everyone reunites for a Christmas party party at the West House, with Dominic as a new member. Barry receives a security alert from his apartment. When he arrives, DeVoe's original body is dead on the floor.
What? What is it?
Security at the loft?
The phone rings. It's Dominic, but the voice is the Thinker's, who has transferred his consciousness into the new body. The police arrive, and Barry surrenders, being arrested for DeVoe's murder. Barry is on trial for DeVoe's murder, with Cecile as his defense attorney. Cisco and Joe investigate a new meta causing citywide fainting spells. Singh appears as a witness for the prosecution. They discover the meta is Neil Borman, who is unintentionally emitting radiation. Barry tries to stop him, but his powers are useless against radiation. Killer Frost tries to freeze him, but he melts the ice and knocks Caitlin out. Barry runs around Borman, creating a vacuum to seal the radiation. Cisco opens a portal, sending him to a dead Earth. The victory doesn't help in court. The jury finds Barry guilty, sentencing him to life in prison. The warden places Barry in the same cell his father was in. Barry secretly uses his speed during a prison riot to help the guards. He befriends Dave, his father's old cellmate. Outside, Axel Walker, son of the Trickster, escapes prison with his mother's help. Axel challenges Ralph to be the city's new hero. Ralph tries but is defeated and needs to be rescued by Cisco. Injured and scared, Ralph visits Barry in prison. Barry gives him a motivational speech, saying that being a hero means being bigger than your fear. Inspired, Ralph gets back in action, saving Cisco and Caitlin after they're captured by the villainous duo. He throws himself in front of his friends, protecting them from an acid bath. Barry and Iris share a romantic moment during a visit. Ralph and Cisco are at a coffee shop and again encounter the excited girl from the wedding, who is writing in her journal in the same strange language Barry spoke when he returned from the Speed Force. Cecile's pregnancy comes with a superpower. She can read minds. Caitlin explains it's dormant dark matter in her cells, a temporary effect. In prison, Barry learns that Dave was framed for a crime he didn't commit. He asks the team to investigate and they discover the real culprit is Rundine, one of the bus metas. His power, shrinking and enlarging objects. During his escape, Rundine shrinks Cisco and Ralph. Caitlin warns that if they don't return to normal size in a few hours, their bodies will explode. Harry tries to create a cure, but only makes things worse. The team corners Rundine in a warehouse. Using reverse psychology, Harry tricks the villain into reversing the shrinking effect. Rundine is arrested, but refuses to confess to the old crime that would exonerate Dave. Barry decides to break Dave out of prison using his super speed, taking him to his dream village in China. Warden Gregory Wolf catches everything on camera, discovering Barry is the Flash.
You're the Flash.
He locks Barry in a private wing for meta-humans, planning to sell him to Amunet. Warden Wolf plans to sell a package of metas, including Barry, to Amunet. Cecile, using her mind-reading power, senses the sinister plan and alerts the team. Ralph runs into an old colleague who annoys him so much that he discovers a new power, shape-shifting, allowing him to change his appearance. He tries to use this ability to infiltrate and sabotage Wolf's deal with Amunet, but the mission fails. Barry helps the metas escape from their power-dampening cells. They end up cornered by Wolf and Amunet. DeVoe appears in his high-tech chair, drains the powers of all the fugitive metas, and uploads his consciousness into Becky Sharp's body. With a new body and powers, he kills Wolf in front of a horrified Marlize. Amunet escapes. To clear Barry's name, Ralph uses his shape-shifting ability to pose as the original DeVoe in court, exonerating his friend. The team knows DeVoe is hunting the bus metas, and Ralph is next on the list. At home, DeVoe drugs his wife with the Weeper's tears to ensure she remains obedient. Barry is exonerated but doesn't return to his police hero status. He's suspended indefinitely. The team finds another bus meta, Izzy Bowen, a musician who creates powerful sonic waves with her violin. DeVoe, in Sharp's body, appears to capture her, but she manages to repel him. Barry and Ralph decide to train her to defend herself. Izzy is not a natural fighter and gets hurt. DeVoe returns for a second round, fully prepared. Using a combination of stolen powers, he gives Barry a cerebral aneurysm with Dominic's telepathy and incapacitates Ralph with Rundine's shrinking powers. With the heroes out of commission, DeVoe uses his chair to steal Izzy's body. The villain escapes with a new body and sonic powers. Barry has lost his job and Ralph feels he's lost Izzy, whom he tried to protect. There's a funeral-like atmosphere atmosphere at Star Labs. The double loss serves as fuel, leaving Barry and Ralph determined to take down DeVoe and save the 3 remaining bus metas. Jessie Quick from Earth 2 arrives to visit her father, Harrison Wells. The reunion is interrupted by eco-terrorist Veronica Dale detonating a nuclear bomb in Central City. Barry enters Flash Time, a state of super speed where time is practically frozen. The bomb has already detonated, and he's racing against the slow-motion explosion. Even with Jessie, who also enters Flash Time, they can't solve it. Jay Garrick from Earth 3 arrives to help, but even with 3 speedsters, the physics seem unbeatable. Barry spends hours in Flash Time, pulling friends into the speed bubble for a desperate brainstorming session. Ideas range from freezing the bomb to sending it to another Earth, but nothing is viable. Iris, with no powers, has a breakthrough. Use the Speed Force Quark Sphere to fire a bolt at the bomb and neutralize the nuclear reaction. Barry runs to the Speed Force, grabs the sphere, and launches it at the explosion, saving the city in the final millisecond. Jay reveals he's training a new speedster to take his place and returns home, as does Jessie. Caitlin and Wells are having coffee when they run into the mysterious girl sitting alone. Eric, a meta with fire powers, tries to rob a bank. Another bus meta, Matthew Kim, accidentally bumps into him, transferring the fire powers to a random bystander named Jacko Birch. When Joe, Iris, and Barry have a word with Kim, Barry and Iris touch him. The result? Barry's super speed is transferred to Iris, and he becomes a regular guy with no powers.
My speed.
What do you mean?
I think I found it.
Iris becomes Central City's new speedster, while Barry learns to be the guy in the chair, giving orders over the comms. Inspired by Thawne, Harry decides to build his own thinking cap to become smarter than DeVoe. Birch, the new pyrokinetic, starts terrorizing the city, demanding money. Using Wells's cap, the team comes up with a plan for Iris to create a tsunami to extinguish Birch's flames. The plan works. Back at Star Labs, Kim touches the couple again, restoring the Flash's speed. Iris admits she enjoyed the experience but knows Central City needs Barry. Wells uses the cap once more, discovering the names of the last 2 bus metas, Janet Petty and Edwin Gauss. Barry and Ralph train to face DeVoe, but Barry is annoyed by Ralph's constant joking. The team locates the next meta, Janet Petty. When Barry and Ralph confront her, they discover her power is to manipulate gravity, turning Barry into a human helium balloon. Fearing Ralph's lack of seriousness will jeopardize everything, Barry takes him off the mission. Ralph opens up, revealing that his humor is a defense mechanism from a difficult childhood where his father abandoned him. He jokes whenever he's scared or under pressure. Barry understands, and they team up again to stop Janet at a gala. During the fight, Janet uses her powers on Barry, causing him to float uncontrollably towards the atmosphere. Barry yells over the radio for the team to trust Ralph's improvisation. Ralph manages to capture Janet and then stretches himself into a giant airbag, saving Barry from a nasty fall. DeVoe's wife discovers he's been drugging her, but the villain erases her memory on the spot. We learn this has happened multiple times. Breacher appears asking Cisco for help because his powers are failing. Harry takes the thinking cap to recharge in Thawne's time vault, activating Gideon in the process.
Good evening, Dr. Wells. It's been 1,078 days since we last spoke.
Teen Flash tracks down the last bus meta on their list, Edwin Gauss. They are followed by a Samuroid which appears out of nowhere and injures Caitlin. Back at Star Labs, Caitlin tells Iris that Killer Frost is only activated by her adrenal gland and that she's working on a way to separate from her icy alter ego. Harry unveils a giant tuning fork designed to mimic Izzy's sonic powers to defeat DeVoe. Ralph confesses to Barry that his biggest fear isn't dying, but something happening to the team, which he considers family. DeVoe invades Star Labs in full force. During the attack, Harry overloads the thinking cap and collapses. DeVoe absorbs the powers of Gauss, Janet Petty, and Matthew Kim. Then comes the final blow. He transfers his consciousness into Ralph Dibny's body. DeVoe is now the elongated man. The team tries to fight, but the villain, with an arsenal of powers, easily defeats them and alters Caitlin's DNA, removing Killer Frost. In his lair, DeVoe uses Ralph's shape-shifting abilities to assume his original appearance and plans his next move with Marlies to to end Team Flash. DeVoe's plan is in full swing as Team Flash scrambles to protect the next target, Neil Borman. Barry and Cisco travel to Earth X to recruit Captain Cold. Leo Snart, Siren X, the evil Laurel Lance from another dimension, hitches a ride and follows them. The plan is to move Borman to a secure Argus facility using a special suit. Snart agrees to help, but only has 24 hours before his wedding to Ray Terrell. DeVoe appears, but Siren X ambushes everyone. She kidnaps Caitlin, Borman, and Joe, taking them to the police precinct. Snart gives Barry a reality check, telling him he needs to allow himself to grieve for lost allies like Ralph. The advice works. Barry finally processes his pain, gets a second wind, and defeats the evil Laurel. Lila transfers Borman to another location, and Leo returns to Earth X to get married. Cisco and Harry get an idea to supercharge Harry's thinking cap. DeVoe enters a god complex mode, claiming emotion is a weakness, which makes Marlies start to doubt her husband's sanity. DeVoe goes on an evil shopping spree, gathering technology for his Enlightenment machine, and killing anyone who dares stand in his way. Team Flash tries to bring Killer Frost back in Caitlin, but it doesn't work. Harry drops a bombshell. The dark matter he used in the thinking cap has fried his brain. Tensions rise when the team goes to stop DeVoe and Marlies from stealing computers to power the machine. A flashback shows Marlies was a humanitarian in Kenya who created a water purifier, but warlords found out, attacked the village, and killed everyone. In the present, the last straw for Marlies is watching DeVoe choke Gypsy. She begs him to stop, but the reality of what he's become finally hits her. She decides to abandon ship, traps her husband in an energy bubble, and escapes their pocket dimension. The team figures out the villain's plan. Use the machine to blast the Earth with dark matter and simplify all of humanity, turning everyone into a version of what Harry is becoming. The mysterious girl shows up at Cecile and Joe's baby shower, hands them a gift, and speeds off.
Special delivery. Wow, super pregnant.
Harry's condition is so bad that he's kicked out of the Council of Wells because his intelligence is plummeting. Cisco doesn't give up and creates a Council of Harrisons to try and reverse the damage. With few options, Team Flash decides to ask a villain, Amunet, for help. On the way, they run into Norvok. Barry sets a condition: no killing. After some negotiation, Amunet hands over a bomb made of her metal, capable of destroying one of DeVoe's satellites. In a final spark of genius, Harry deduces that DeVoe's plan might change now that Marlies has left him. Iris decides to use her pen as a weapon and publishes an article exposing DeVoe's entire plan. The story goes viral, and Central City citizens start calling in to report sightings of the villain. The entire city becomes a surveillance network, making it difficult for DeVoe to hide in the shadows. DeVoe infiltrates an Argus facility disguised as John Diggle. He wipes out the security, leaving a few hostages. His goal? To turn the Meta Fallout into a giant nuclear battery for his satellites. To find the secret base, Barry speeds to Star City and brings back the real Diggle to help. Caitlin and Cisco ask Barry for a crash course in Flash time. The idea is to save the hostages at the speed of light while Barry goes after DeVoe before the portal closes. Cecile, in the final stages of her pregnancy, has her telepathy bugging out, causing her to absorb the personalities of anyone nearby. Harry and Iris track Marlies to Oxford using the last extrapolator. Caitlin and Cisco successfully rescue the hostages. Afterward, Caitlin asks Cisco to use his powers to enter a repressed childhood memory. The shocking revelation: Killer Frost was a part of her long before the particle accelerator exploded. Barry catches up to DeVoe and destroys one of the satellites with Amunet's bomb, but DeVoe hacks Star Labs and uses their satellite as a replacement. With everything in place, he initiates the Enlightenment protocol directly from the Time Vault. With the Enlightenment underway, Marlies has an idea: use Cecile's powers to send Barry into DeVoe's mind. The mission is to find the sliver of goodness that might still exist. Upon arriving in the Mindscape, Barry is surprised to find Ralph Dibny is alive. Together they search for the good DeVoe, but only find his lifeless body. The real DeVoe doesn't appreciate the intrusion and attacks them inside his own head, multiplying like Agent Smith from the Matrix to fight Barry and Ralph. The duo manages to reach the nexus of the villain's mind, allowing Barry to wake up in the real world. In perfect timing, Ralph also regains control of his body just as DeVoe is about to kill Cecile. The villain tries one last trick, appearing as a hologram in his floating chair, but Marlies arrives and pulls the plug, destroying the chair and DeVoe once and for all. DeVoe left a parting gift. A failsafe causes the Starlab satellite to fall directly towards Central City. Barry, Cisco, and Ralph scramble to protect people from the debris, but the day is saved by the mysterious girl who helps destroy the main piece. With Marley's help, the team restores Harry's intelligence to a functional level, and he returns to Earth too. Everyone celebrates the victory with Joe, who is finally back, and the family's new baby, Jenna. The mysterious girl appears again and drops a bombshell. She is Nora, Barry, and Iris's daughter, and she traveled from the future because she made a very big mistake. Nora West Allen, Barry and Iris's daughter from the future, arrives in Central City. Barry is concerned about the timeline consequences but can't send her back. She has negative tachyons in her blood preventing time travel. Nora reveals that Barry disappears in 2024 and never returns, and she just wanted to meet her father. A new meta named Gridlock, who absorbs kinetic energy, causes a plane to stop mid-air. Barry, Nora, Wally, and Cisco save the passengers. Nora gives Barry a ring that stores his flash suit. Later, a masked villain attacks the convoy transporting Gridlock, killing him with a lightning bolt-shaped dagger and declaring he will exterminate all metahumans.
To die.
Barry trains Nora, who gets an internship as a CSI, making Iris jealous. Cisco is heartbroken after his breakup with Gypsy, while Cecile loses her telepathic powers. A new meta named Block, who creates dense air blocks, emerges in the city. During the confrontation, Cicada appears, kills Block, attacks Teen Flash with his power-dampening dagger, and slashes Cisco's hands. Nora manages to scare him off. The team discovers that Caitlin's mother is involved in her father's disappearance, and that Nora has known about Cicada from the beginning. The team recruits Sherlock Wells, a French detective, to capture Cicada. Nora reveals that in the future, Cicada is unbeatable. Caitlin and Ralph investigate her mother, Dr. Carla, who denies faking her husband's death, but they find a suicide note. Sherlock identifies Cicada as David Hirsch, but he's wrong. Nora has altered the timeline. Cicada attacks Joe as bait for Cisco, who is stabbed and has his arm broken. To save everyone, Nora causes an explosion, and Cisco fakes his own death using a breach device, fooling Cicada. Caitlin finds a secret message from her father asking her to find him. Sherlock begins to suspect Nora's true intentions. A blogger named Spencer Young writes articles about XS, Nora's hero identity, before the events happen. Nora reveals why she dislikes the future Iris. Her own mother implanted a chip in her that dampened her powers. Spencer reveals herself as the villain, using a meta-tech phone that controls minds through her articles. She creates a bomb threat and hypnotizes Nora into trying to kill the Flash. Iris saves the day by shooting Nora with a tranquilizer dart. The team discovers that Cicada's dagger and Spencer's phone were empowered by DeVoe's satellite explosion, and that Cicada also has super strength. Barry and Nora capture art thieves, while Iris grows frustrated at being shut out by her daughter. Nora investigates with Cecile to understand the present-day version of her mother. A new contortionist meta, Ragdoll, emerges and captures an unsuited Barry on a rooftop with power-dampening cuffs, unaware he's caught the Flash. Ralph and Iris rescue Barry. She jumps off the building to remove the cuffs in midair. The Flash recovers and saves everyone while Ralph defeats Ragdoll. Iris and Nora begin to connect. Cisco decides to hack DeVoe's satellites to find Caitlin's father and Cicada. Barry, Cisco, and Caitlin find Thomas Snow at a secret Arctic base. He reveals they both have the ALS gene and gained ice powers trying to cure themselves. Thomas claims to be dying because he lacks a second personality like Killer Frost. Cisco is suspicious and discovers the truth. It's not Thomas, but an alternate personality wearing a fake skin. Caitlin realizes the serum she created would kill her father's human side. The icicle alter ego reveals himself and tries to freeze everyone to absolute zero, but Caitlin is immune. Killer Frost returns and defeats Icicle in an ice battle. The team learns that Brainstorm's power is what made Killer Frost disappear, and they discover the name of Cicada's niece, Grace. Barry tries to visit Grace in the hospital, but is blocked by a doctor allied with Cicada. Barry and Nora stop a lightning storm caused by Joss, the Weather Wizard's daughter, now Weather Witch. An attempt to calm her down with her father fails, and she attacks an airport with a lightning tornado. Barry uses the Weather Wizard's old wand as a human lightning rod, absorbing the energy and defeating her. Team Flash discovers Cicada's identity, Orlin Dwyer. Flashbacks show Orlin adopted Grace after her parents were killed in a meta-human attack. The falling DeVoe satellite left Grace in a coma and injured Orlin with the fragment that would become his dagger. Blaming meta-humans, Orlin vows to exterminate them all. Barry and Nora time travel to collect a piece of Savitar's armor, a Speed Force transmitter from Harry Wells, and dark matter. A time wraith appears during the battle with Savitar, but Barry distracts it while Nora grabs the armor piece. In Zoom's era, era, they get the transmitter, but Zoom chases them until a wraith knocks him out, breaking the transmitter in the process. Nora convinces Barry to ask Eobard Thawne for help in the future. Thawne fixes it, saying that without the device, he can never return home. Back in the present, they use the device on Cicada, separating him from his dagger for a few seconds before he escapes. Nora furiously returns to 2049 after Barry reveals that Thawne killed her grandmother. Furious after learning Thawne killed her grandmother, Nora refuses to work with him. A new villain, Silver Ghost, emerges, controlling cars with metatech. Barry starts vibrating uncontrollably and has to be contained in a special cell. Ghost breaks Joss out to steal a Wayne Tech car from Argus. Cisco hacks the car's radio, and Nora convinces Joss to sabotage it by offering her a second chance. Caitlin heals Cisco's hands, and they agree to develop a voluntary meta-human cure. Nora returns to the future and agrees to help Thawne again. He has less than an hour to live. Sherlock investigates the time vault and discovers Nora has erased all her own files. Cicada returns with a list of metas, courtesy of a mole in the police force. An attack paralyzes Nora and messes with her accelerated healing. Cecile investigates the traitor while the team hides the metas on the list. Caitlin needs blood from a newly created meta to finish the cure. Cicada attacks the hideout. Ralph helps the metas escape, while Flash and Killer Frost fight. Killer Frost gets a blood sample from Cicada. In a rage, Flash nearly kills the villain, but Nora recovers and stops him.
Gonna hurt my daughter again.
No.
You brought me back.
Cicada escapes. Sherlock discovers Nora's journal has two different handwritings. Barry has an idea. Wake Grace up instead of fighting Cicada. The plan is to use a memory machine from Earth 221 to wake Grace. Nora, afraid of exposing her alliance with Thawne, dives into Grace's mind alone. Inside, she discovers Grace is conscious and supports her uncle's crusade against Metis. A female version of Cicada appears and attacks Nora. Barry and Iris go to rescue their daughter but get trapped in the Flash Museum, attacked by a museum version of Reverse Flash. They manage to escape and rescue Nora. The mission fails. Grace refuses to wake up and calls Nora a liar. Caitlin discovers a satellite fragment in Grace's brain is creating an impenetrable barrier. Iris launches her newspaper, The Central City Citizen, which wasn't supposed to happen until 2021. Barry decides to force the cure on Cicada. The team has the cure ready, but needs a device to paralyze Cicada. Ralph discovers the device is in the possession of Goldface, a meta-human crime boss. Barry and Ralph go undercover as criminals to get it. Goldface tests them on a heist at Ivo Labs' 3D printer. The mission goes sideways, but Barry and Ralph apprehend Goldface and his gang, securing the device. Iris investigates Cicada alone, finds his house, and breaks in. Cicada attacks, but she discovers his weakness before the team arrives and he escapes. Following Thawne's advice, Nora sets Sherlock up with Renee Adler. They fall for each other, and Renee is a meta. Sherlock now focuses on protecting his girlfriend from Cicada instead of investigating Nora. Barry enters the Speed Force to accelerate the cure's production, leaving Nora behind. Cicada kidnaps Iris, but she sends an SOS to Nora and Killer Frost. Cicada takes out Killer Frost, and a desperate Nora resets time multiple times. Each attempt results in the death of a Team Flash member. Cisco notices the Groundhog Day-style time loop and exposes the situation. Nora confesses, and the team devises a new plan, tricking Cicada into stabbing himself with his own dagger. The injured villain flees. Barry returns and scolds Nora for messing with the timeline. Sherlock finally deciphers Nora's journal. With the cure ready, the team tests it on King Shark at Argus with Lila's help. King Shark is being mind-controlled by Gorilla Grodd and attacks. Barry injects the cure, and King Shark reverts to his human form, Shay Lambden.
He's human again.
Caitlin discovers the cure isn't 100% effective. Shay's body shifts between human and shark. Grodd mentally controls Cisco and Caitlin to steal a telepathy crown and amplify his powers to take over the city. Shay heroically offers to become King Shark again to fight Grodd, sacrificing his humanity. Joe returns home. Barry suggests offering the cure to Cicada instead of forcing it on him. In 2049, the Reverse Flash warns Nora that the timeline is unstable and something big is coming. In the present, a new meta, Acid Master, appears. Nora recognizes his burn mark from a future newspaper. The final battle against Cicada is near. Joe and Cecile question Dr. Embrus, who reveals that little Grace is now a meta-human. Barry tells Orlin that Grace can be cured, and he agrees to take the cure. During the procedure at Star Labs, a new Cicada Cicada attacks, takes control of the dagger, kills Dr. Embrus, and kidnaps Orlin. The new Cicada removes her mask, revealing herself to be an adult Grace from the future.
Uncle Orlin.
In 2049, Thawne tells Nora to tell her father the truth. Adult Grace reveals to Orlin that she came from a future where metahumans dominate. The team discovers she arrived in a time sphere stolen from a future Star Labs. Cicada 2's first target is Vicky Bolin, the meta who accidentally killed her parents. Team Flash prevents the revenge plot. Orlin tries to convince his niece to stop, but she kills him. Sherlock finds a code that Thawne deciphered when he was Dr. Wells. The handwriting matches the second person in Nora's journal. Sherlock exposes Nora's partnership with Thawne in front of the team. Barry locks his own daughter in the pipeline. The team reads Nora's journal in a long flashback. In the future, Nora was a forensic scientist who was struck by Godspeed and discovered her powers. She found the dampening chip her mother planted in her shoulder. Her best friend, Leah, is killed by Godspeed. Thawne becomes Nora's mentor, teaching her to control her powers to defeat Godspeed. With Thawne's help, Nora finds the time vault and learns her father was the Flash. Back in the present, a guilt-ridden Iris frees Nora. Barry sends his daughter back to the future, warning her he'll feel any attempt she makes to time travel. Barry visits Thawne in prison, pleased to know the villain will be executed. Barry and Iris fight over him, sending Nora away. Iris reprograms the time sphere and goes to 2049. She finds Nora asking Thawne to teach her the negative speed force to travel undetected. The first attempt fails, and Iris confronts them both. A furious Nora dives into the negative speed force and vanishes. Thawne admits he's lost control and tells Iris to bring her family together. Caitlin's father, Icicle, steals a cryo-atomizer and kidnaps Caitlin and Carla to turn them into ice metas. Killer Frost fights her father. Barry saves Carla from the chamber, but the process also activates her powers. As Icicle is about to kill Caitlin, Thomas re-emerges and Cicada 2 appears. Thomas sacrifices himself, stepping in front of the dagger to save his daughter. The villain flees with the atomizer. Barry admits his mistake and makes peace with Iris, promising to help their daughter. Nora emerges from the negative speed force, her eyes glowing red. Nora plans a heist at McCulloch Technologies, which manufactures weapons from the satellite shards. She assembles a team with Brie Larvon, Ragdoll, and Joss to get past power dampeners. The villains betray Nora and threaten to kill everyone unless Flash reveals his identity. Sherlock projects a hologram of the Flash as a distraction, while Iris and Joe help hostages escape and capture Ragdoll. Barry and Nora disable the dampeners and apprehend the gang. Nora confesses her real plan was to steal a mirror gun capable of destroying Cicada's dagger. She makes peace with her parents and agrees to abandon Thawne's plan. Barry now seems to like the idea of using the weapon. Caitlin and Ralph discover the cure prototypes have been stolen and realize Cicada 2 could use them with the cryo-atomizer to create a lethal version of the cure. Cicada 2 is doing exactly that, hallucinating her uncle by her side. Keen Flash distributes the metahuman cure to protect against Cicada 2. Sherlock tries to give a dose to Renee, but she refuses, so he sends her to the safety of his Earth. Nora reveals she's mentally linked to Grace through the negative speed force and wants to use this connection to locate her, but her parents deem it too dangerous. Ralph is suspicious of Thawne's plan, but nobody pays him any mind. After Cicada 2 acquires the final pieces for her genocidal weapon, Barry and Iris allow Nora to take the risk. She locates Grace attacking the police precinct, using the meta's dark matter as a battery for a cryo-atomizer. Cisco deactivates the device during the fight. Ralph finally understands Thawne's plan when Barry fires the mirror gun at Cicada's dagger. In 2049, Dawn is about to be executed, but the camera reveals Cicada's dagger has been dampening its powers all along. Ralph saves the dagger from destruction at the last second.
Plan. Don't shoot it!
Cicada 2 grabs the weapon and escapes. Sherlock explains Thawne's plan. The dagger was his power dampener in the future. Realizing she's been used, Nora devises a plan to stop Cicada 2 without destroying the dagger. The team tracks the villain to the hospital where a young Grace lies in a coma. Nora enters the child's mind to convince her to take the cure. The plan nearly works, but a shrapnel shard in her head acts as an antivirus. Barry is forced to destroy the dagger. The adult Grace is erased from existence, and Thawne regains his powers in 2049. The team fights Reverse Flash, and Barry and Nora defeat him. The new timeline, without the dagger, begins erasing Nora from existence. Thawne escapes, revealing that the only way for her to survive is to enter the negative Speed Force. Nora refuses to become a female version of Thawne and fades away in her parents' arms. Sherlock returns to his Earth, Cisco takes the cure, and Captain Singh is promoted, naming Joe as his replacement and revealing he always knew Barry was the Flash. Barry and Iris find a farewell message from their daughter, and the future newspaper shows the crisis date has moved up to December 10th, 2019. Right after losing their daughter, Nora, Barry Allen and Iris West Allen watch her final message get destroyed. 4 months pass, and the couple seems to have moved past their grief, but their friends are buying it. While Iris tries to retrieve Nora's suit from a junkyard, she's nearly sucked into a black hole that appears out of nowhere. It's the universe's way of saying, you thought you'd get some peace and quiet?
Must be pretty important.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
The investigation into the phenomenon leads to Chester P. Runk, a scientist who built a machine to open black holes and ended up with half his consciousness trapped inside one, leaving him in a catatonic state. Basically, the guy CTRL plus X'd himself. To make matters worse, the black hole reappears over Central City, much larger this time. Using the tech from Nora's spare gauntlet, Barry dives into the black hole like a cosmic surfer, rescues Chester's consciousness, and puts it back in his body. Problem solved? Black hole closed? Meanwhile, Caitlin Snow tries to help her other personality, Killer Frost, have a life of her own. Imagine having to teach your evil twin how to live a normal life. She also tries to convince her colleague, Ramsey Rosso, not to use dark matter to cure his patients. Rosso ignores her warnings, tests the cure on himself, and, surprise, gains metahuman powers. Who would have thought? Elsewhere, Barry and Iris learn the truth. The Monitor destroyed Nora's message to prevent Barry from changing his fate in the coming crisis. The final bombshell: the Flash must die so that billions may live. No pressure.
What do you want?
In order for billions to survive this coming crisis, Flash must die.
Refusing to accept his death sentence, Barry decides to time travel to the day after his disappearance to see what really happens in the crisis. But an antimatter barrier blocks his path, like a cosmic firewall saying, "Access denied." After sustaining a bizarre injury, he goes to Earth 3 to ask for help from Jay Garrick and his wife, Joan Williams. Using a machine Jay built, they project Barry's mind through the barrier. It's like a hardcore astral projection trip. Barry witnesses billions of possible futures where the multiverse is annihilated, and only one where he sacrifices himself to save it. The experience leaves him completely shaken. Later, Joe West gives him some fatherly advice, saying that his death wouldn't mean he gave up. Meanwhile, Cecile takes the case of a young Meta, Allegra Garcia. Her empathic powers scream that the girl is innocent, and she secures her release. The problem is, Allegra then appears at a crime scene, looking guilty. Despite Joe's suspicions, Cecile insists on her innocence. Out of nowhere, Allegra's Meta cousin, Esperanza, attacks the precinct to kill her. Barry arrives just in time, defeats the villain, and clears Allegra's name. After this, Cecile decides to become a defense attorney for metahumans, a sort of real-life She-Hulk. Somewhere else, Rosso continues to discover more about his new and sinister powers. Ramsey Rosso unintentionally turns an arms dealer named Mitch Romero into a zombie. And not just any zombie, but one that hunts dark matter to get stronger. It even attacks its own crew. Barry and Killer Frost investigate the case, while Barry takes the opportunity to teach her how to move on without him after the crisis. It's almost like Jedi life coaching. Using Caitlin's memories, Killer Frost quickly suspects Rosso. Barry finds him and convinces him to help. At Star Labs, Rosso almost steals dark matter, but Barry stops him with a straight talk. They connect after discovering they're both on borrowed time. Rosso reveals he's dying from the same disease that killed his mother. The Romero zombie invades the lab, and Rosso discovers he can control it like a macabre puppet master. In the end, Barry and Killer Frost destroy Romero with a dark matter overdose. Meanwhile, Iris and Cisco meet an adventurer named Harrison Nash Wells, an Indiana Jones type who is on Earth once searching for a substance called Eternium.
My name is Cisco Ramon.
To get your hands on this priceless beauty? Is that why? Go ahead.
Would you like that?
No!
In the end, Barry and Iris tell Team Flash the whole truth about his fate in the crisis. The secret is out. At the same time, Rosso figures out he can manipulate the blood-like substance the zombie produced for his cure, and now he wants more. The path to villainy is officially open, and now his tragic past is revealed through flashbacks. He cared for his mother, who had a rare disease, but became resentful when he felt she simply gave up fighting before she died. Basically, the guy has a hardcore abandonment complex that's become his motivation to avoid the same fate. Meanwhile, back at Team Flash HQ, the mood is grim after the news about Barry and Iris. Cisco is in complete denial and vows to find a way to save his friend, like Sam trying to carry Frodo to Mount Doom. Seeing this, Barry, already in "I'll sacrifice myself for the greater good" mode, decides to train Cisco to be the team's new leader. Then a new guy, Nash, shows up, looking like he walks straight out of an Indiana Jones movie. He offers his help in exchange for a crypto circuit that only Cisco knows how to build. The trio then breaks into McCulloch Technologies to get a regenerative serum, but Cisco, acting on his own, pockets the serum to use on Barry and lies, saying it had already been sold. Their friendship takes a serious hit. Barry, with his heart of gold, ends up giving the serum to Rosso, hoping to cure him. Bad idea. The serum doesn't work and makes Rosso realize he doesn't need regular blood, but blood full of adrenaline. The result? He attacks a hospital, causes a massacre, and escapes despite the Flash and Killer Frost trying to stop him. Now, with their friendship restored by the tragedy, Barry and Cisco have a new mission: stop this monster. Barry and Iris finally take a vacation, leaving Cisco in charge. What could possibly go wrong, right? Everything. Out of nowhere, Breacher, Cisco's ex-girlfriend's father, shows up with news that his daughter, Cynthia, has been murdered by a mysterious hacker named Echo. And so begins an episode of CSI Central City. Cisco teams up with Breacher and the Collectors to investigate, but things take a sinister turn when all the clues point to Cisco himself. Breacher is one step away from disintegrating him, but, in an act of mercy, gives him 1 hour to prove his innocence. Racing against the clock, Cisco discovers the truth. The real killer is his doppelganger from Earth 19, who used their resemblance to frame him. In a Cisco versus evil Cisco showdown, our hero manages to capture his villainous counterpart. Afterward, Breacher apologizes and they realize that Cynthia herself set the whole thing up. She knew Echo would come after her and trusted that our Earth Cisco was the only one capable of stopping him. Meanwhile, Rosso tries to get inside Caitlin's head, offering her immortality in exchange for her help, but she refuses his vampire-like offer. Elsewhere in the city, Joe follows Nash into the sewers, and the two end up trapped until Ralph Dibny shows up to save the day. After the rescue, a reluctant Nash drops a bombshell. He knows how to save Barry from his impending death.
I know how to save Barry Allen.
Ralph, our beloved elongated man, is in Midway City following a lead on Sue Dearborn, the girl he's been searching for since summer. Barry, who can't sit still, decides to tag along, turning the mission into a buddy cop adventure. They infiltrate a gala full of criminals, but Barry, being Barry, ends up blowing their cover and attracting the attention of the host, a guy named Remington Meister. To make matters worse, Meister is working with the villain Esperanza. The heroic duo gets captured and left for dead, but like in any good action movie, they manage to escape, defeat Esperanza, and shut down Meister's illegal auction. The bad news is, they don't find Sue. Later, Barry holds a press conference to officially recognize Elongated Man as a protector of Central City, and the moment turns into a surprise tribute to the Flash himself.
CSI Barry Allen, please come up.
Meanwhile, Nash asks for Allegra's help. He needs her to use her light-based powers to illuminate a wall made of Eternium, a substance that could destroy the Earth if struck. She's afraid of becoming a villain like Esperanza, but Nash reassures her, saying her future is her own to choose. She agrees. The episode seems like it's heading for a happy ending, until Ralph tells Iris that Esperanza's mysterious bosses were at the party. And seconds later, Rosso appears out of nowhere and attacks him. No matter how hard Ralph stretches, it's no use. Rosso manages to drain his blood like a gourmet vampire. Killer Frost rushes Ralph to Star Labs, where Barry performs a blood transfusion to save his friend. But in the process, a drop of Rosso's blood enters Barry's bloodstream, and the hero collapses instantly. Inside his mind, the Speed Force appears to him, but in the form of his mother, Nora. She explains that Rosso's blood acts like a computer virus, spreading slowly and giving the villain full access to Barry's mind. Now, Rosso knows everything: Flash's secret identity, his impending death in the crisis. Rosso starts using Barry's memories against him, trying to convince him to join join the dark side. The promise is tempting, the power to prevent not only his own death but countless others. The Speed Force tries to intervene but ends up pushing Barry's buttons, who rebels, realizing he's been nothing but a pawn in its game all along. Cisco and Killer Frost manage to revive Barry, but when Iris arrives, she knows instantly that's not her husband. Completely infected, the evil Barry attacks his friends and presents himself to Rosso, ready to execute the villain's master plan. Meanwhile, Iris, Camilla, and Allegra investigate the organization that turned Esperanza into an assassin, Maelstrom, but their only lead is mysteriously eliminated. With Barry acting as his puppet, Rosso attacks Central City and begins turning its citizens into his blood brothers and sisters, basically a version of The Walking Dead, but with blood instead of zombies. Cisco and Iris come up with different plans to save Barry, but both fail completely. Even so, Rosso decides not to convert them because he has an even bigger final plan: to use the Star Labs particle accelerator to spread his blood throughout the entire city. As the villain invades the lab, Cisco and Iris have a moment of epiphany. They realize that during their last encounter, Barry, though controlled, used his connection with Rosso to send them a secret message, a plan to defeat him. Using a combination of Rosso's blood, the particle accelerator, and Allegra's powers, Team Flash manages to turn the tables and cure all of Central City. With his plan in ruins, Rosso goes all out and transforms into a giant blood monster, ready for the final round. But Barry uses a dirty trick. He projects a hallucination of Rosso's mother, distracting the monster long enough to trap him in Chester's containment cell. With Rosso being shipped off to Argus, Team Flash enjoys its last few moments of peace before the crisis, as the skies begin to turn red. Far away, Nash discovers a wall full of symbols and is sucked into a mysterious light.
Submit and begin your life anew.
Iris, Allegra, Cecile, and Camilla form Team Citizen to investigate McCulloch Technologies and a secret organization called Black Hole. McCulloch's CEO, Joseph Carver, swears up and down he has nothing to do with it, but Iris, being a good journalist, doesn't buy it and publishes an article exposing the company anyway. This obviously angers the bad guys, and Black Hole hires a metahuman assassin, Kimio Hoshi, to put an end to Iris. Meanwhile, Diggle shows up in Central City with a little gift: the mask Barry gave Oliver during their first crossover. Barry, who's no fool, notices a trace of Mirakuru's serum on the mask and thinks it's a warning from Oliver about a new threat. He and Diggle head to Lian-Yu, where Barry finally gets to open up and process his friend's death. Back at Star Labs, Team Citizen sets a trap for Hoshi, and Iris goes straight to the source, blackmailing Carver. Under pressure, he cancels the hit on her and pins the blame on his missing wife, Ava McCulloch. Curious, Iris goes to investigate further and is suddenly pulled into a mirror. To end on a melancholic note, Cisco, who lost his powers after taking the metahuman cure and feels guilty about the crisis, decides to leave Team Flash to dedicate himself to a new mission, cataloging all the changes that have occurred in the universe. Barry and Iris's Valentine's Day barely starts before it's interrupted by Emunet Black, who shows up to crash the party and steal a briefcase containing a mysterious device. The couple tracks the villain to Ivo Labs, but upon arriving, they run into her ex-boyfriend Goldface. A full-blown public airing of their dirty laundry ensues, and Goldface ends up escaping with the device. Barry and Iris witness the whole thing and later manage to retrieve the device. Shortly after, Iris has a serious talk with Barry about his life choices, and in a crazy plot twist, decides to team up with Emunet. Later, Barry finds Emunet and Goldface fighting over a flower called Rappaccini's daughter. The Flash, being the Flash, uses the flower's pollen to make the two criminal lovebirds reconcile. With that, Barry and Iris also make peace. But there's a sinister detail. The Iris who was with Barry the whole time wasn't Iris. She's an imposter. The real one is still trapped in the mirror at McCulloch Tech.
Get away from him! That's not me! She's not me!
Elsewhere in the city, Frost plays Cupid and convinces Allegra to reconnect with an ex. Meanwhile, Nash, after offering some advice, starts having hallucinations of his doppelganger, Harry Wells. In the Mirrorverse, Iris meets Ava, who reveals she's been trapped there for 6 years, ever since the particle accelerator exploded. Remembering the villain Sam Scudder, Iris suggests using liquid nitrogen to break the mirror and escape, but the plan fails. In a moment of desperation, Ava discovers that she can somehow control the mirror. Meanwhile, in the real world, the Iris duplicate asks Barry for the mirror gun, but he denies her request. She then secretly goes to the Star Labs archives to get the weapon, but gives up after running into Nash. Speaking of missions, Ralph finally finds Sue, but she tells him she can't go home because a gangster named John Loring is after her. Ralph becomes the hero of the hour, teams up with her, and even tells her his secret identity. But Sue plays him for a fool and double-crosses Ralph to steal a diamond. Loring catches her in the act, but Ralph shows up to save her. To make matters worse, the assassin Esperanza appears to kill Sue. The situation gets even messier until Sue tricks everyone and vanishes off the map. Elsewhere, Joe warns Barry that there's a mole in the CCPD and that he can only trust family. This convinces Barry to do exactly what he shouldn't. He gives the mirror gun to Iris. Far away, Sue investigates the stolen diamond and finds what else? The black hole symbol. While searching for his parents' graves, Barry runs into Hartley Rathaway, the Pied Piper, cleaning out a jewelry store. Since the rest of the team is busy, Camilla and Chester try to help, but Hartley gets away. Later, while updating Gideon, Barry is accidentally pulled into the mind of Grodd, who is still in a coma. It's like a mental download gone wrong. Inside, Grodd lays it all out for Barry. After the crisis, he regretted everything and just wants to return to Gorilla City and live in peace. Barry, of course, doesn't buy this whole reformed villain story. When he tries to leave, he runs into a mental gatekeeper, which is a version of Solivar, basically a level boss in the gorilla's mind. After a lot of talking, Barry and Grodd make peace and team up to defeat the mental Solivar, while Chester works on the outside to separate their minds. In the end, Argus agrees to release Grodd on parole. Who would have thought? Meanwhile, Iris and Ava try to escape the Mirrorverse again, but Ava ends up burning her arms. When Iris leaves to get bandages, Ava contacts Mirror Iris, who mysteriously appears with the same burns. Elsewhere, Allegra discovers she had a doppelganger who worked for Nash. When he tries to explain, he starts hallucinating another one of his doppelgangers, Sherlock Wells, who issues a sinister warning. He is coming. Look who's back in Central City, Wally West and Cisco, but the news isn't good. The Speed Force is dying, like a cosmic battery on its last legs, and in a few weeks, all speedsters will lose their powers forever. Barry even enters the Speed Force to confirm it and discovers that the upgrade Oliver gave him during the crisis is to blame. The Speed Force itself is understanding, basically saying, relax, it was an emergency. Meanwhile, a new metahuman named Novikov, or Turtle 2, who controls time, decides to get revenge on those who thwarted her past crimes. Cisco, ever the genius, creates the Velocity X serum to nullify her powers. With Barry and Wally's help, Joe manages to arrest the villain, but the calm doesn't last long. Cisco is attacked by none other than Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, but there's a catch. He has possessed Nash's body, which has no powers. So, the fastest man alive is trapped in a regular guy's body. Cecile seizes the opportunity and knocks Thawne out, and he's locked up in Star Labs. Since Thawne still has the negative speed force, Barry has a crazy idea: create his own artificial speed force. Before leaving, Wally tells Joe he's suspicious of Iris, and for good reason. Camilla discovers the truth about Mirror Iris, but the clone shoots her with the mirror gun to silence her. To make matters worse, a Mirror Camilla is created to replace the original. The clone army is growing. Joe even warns Captain Singh that there's a mole in the CCPD, but his boss doesn't seem convinced. Meanwhile, Cisco gives Barry a speed gauge to monitor what little remains of his powers. The mission now is to exorcise Thawne from Nash's mind. Inside his head, Cisco, Cecile, and Barry discover that Thawne is using Nash's trauma over Allegra's doppelganger Maya to control him. With this information, they help Nash overcome her death and finally expel the Reverse Flash from his head.
You can't feed off of him anymore. No!
Meanwhile, Ava sends Mirror Iris and Mirror Camilla to steal a prismatic refractor, but they run into a black hole agent, Sunshine, who got there first. A fight breaks out, and Frost and the Flash show up to help, but Barry's speed fails mid-fight, and Frost is nearly killed. The police arrive and Sunshine flees. Following a tip from Iris about limits, Barry devises a plan. He lures Sunshine to his lab and closes all the windows, blocking the light and consequently her powers. Genius. Singh, upon arresting Sunshine, assumes she was the mole hole. After his experience with Thawne, Barry decides to use his daughter Nora's journal to create his artificial Speed Force, while the clones deliver the refractor to Ava. While the original Iris gets used to the Mirrorverse, she drops a bombshell on Ava. Her husband is none other than the Flash. With this information, Ava already has a plan, and sends Mirror Iris to ensure Barry loses his speed. Meanwhile, the villain Carver hires Ragdoll, a bizarre contortionist, to take Joe out. Things get ugly fast. Joe's car is sabotaged, and then he's attacked directly. Barry tries to be the hero, but fails to stop all the bullets, and Joe ends up getting shot. It's one of those moments where you think, seriously, Flash? To make matters worse, Ragdoll kidnaps Cecile. Barry goes to fight the villain, but it's Joe himself who ends up saving Cecile. After all the trouble, he finally agrees to enter the Witness Protection Program. But then comes the plot twist. Officer Singh, who offered the help, is actually another one of Ava's clones. The villainess even sends a mirror to Carver, giving him one last chance to apologize. But he, acting like the jerk he is, refuses and smashes it. On the other side, Mirror Iris is furious that Barry didn't protect Joe, and she couldn't even say goodbye. The result? She kicks Barry out of the house. In a parallel storyline, Ralph and Cisco find Sue robbing Carver's banks. She explains that the guy is blackmailing her parents, and despite apologizing for manipulating Ralph, she insists she prefers to work alone. Barry finally activates his detective mode and starts suspecting that's not his Iris. With the help of a somewhat skeptical Cecile, he finds the evidence Camilla left behind, but Ava, who is no fool, has switched out his equipment. The result is a soap opera-worthy twist. Teen Flash thinks Barry is the imposter and locks him up. Lucky for him, Cecile trusts her gut and sets him free. Meanwhile, the Mirror clones make a deal with Rosso, the blood villain, his blood in exchange for their freedom. Mirror Camilla even sacrifices herself to make it happen. Rosso delivers what they want but decides to stay in prison, showing he has his own plans in motion. In the Mirrorverse, the real Iris discovers Eva's entire betrayal but ends up getting captured. Mirror Iris delivers the blood to Ava and goes after a weakened Barry. The tables turn when the original Iris, though trapped, taunts Ava about her love for Carver. This causes a mental glitch in the villain, affecting the connection with her clone. Seeing Mirror Iris falter, Barry encourages her to live for herself, but Ava, filled with rage, shatters the clone before stepping out of the mirror and injuring Barry once more. Still, she leaves him alive to attend to her own plans. In the end, Barry and Iris promise to hold on for each other. Barry rushes to tell Joe and the rest of Team Flash about the Mirror clones. As if that wasn't enough, Godspeed shows up to attack again, or rather, a drone of his. Since this is the 5th time one of these robots has appeared in the last year, the goal is always the same: to drain Barry's speed using vibrations. The solution? Call in a vibration expert, Hartley Rathaway, the Pied Piper. The problem is, in the new post-crisis timeline, he hates Barry for destabilizing the molecules of his boyfriend Roderick. After a heart-to-heart, the two come to an understanding and team up to fight. Together, Barry and Hartley combine their powers and defeat the Godspeed drone, which had even taken hostages.
They cross streams.
They discover the robot was sent by someone seeking infinite velocity, but at least they managed to use the drone's charged sound to save Roderick. Inspired by all this, Cisco has a brilliant idea: build a perpetual motion machine to rescue everyone from the Mirrorverse. Meanwhile, Iris finally finds Camilla but starts suffering from neural dissonance. Basically, her brain is starting to blue screen, just like Ava's. To top it off, Ralph helps Killer Frost deal with the idea of meeting Caitlin's mother, and Ava prepares for the final confrontation with her husband. Barry tries to warn Carver about Ava, but the villain is arrogant and basically tells the Flash to take a hike. But the conversation changes when Mirror Singh blows up a black hole warehouse. Ava has captured Carver's metahumans, and now the guy gets scared and accepts help. Mirror Singh then offers an action movie-worthy trade: Iris for Carver. Before Barry can respond, Nash hits the escape button and gets everyone out of there. Hiding out at McCullough Tech, Ralph discovers that Sue infiltrated Black Hole not for justice, but for revenge. She wants to kill Carver. He tries tries to talk her out of it, but there's no time. The metahumans, now on Ava's side, invade the premises. The brawl begins. Nash, Allegra, Ralph, and Sue against the Black Hole crew. In the midst of the chaos, Mirror Singh sacrifices himself to clear a path for Ava, who arrives and knocks out Barry. With the Flash out of the way, Ava kills Carver and retakes control of her company, but lets Team Flash go. And to top it all off, she goes public and tells a beautiful story, that she was held hostage by a crime syndicate and Carver died a hero trying to save her. Sue celebrates that her family is free until Ralph breaks the news. Eva framed her for Carver's murder. As Joe returns from witness protection, back in the mirror world, Iris finds Singh, but her brain starts to blue screen and poof, she simply vanishes in front of Camilla. To conserve the remaining 1% of the Speed Force's battery, Barry freezes himself, like Captain America on ice. The nap ends when Ava decides to start destroying what's left of Black Hole. Barry wakes up and tries to reason with her, asking her to stop and free Iris, but it's no use. Ava is so furious that she destroys Sam Scudder, her very first mirror copy, just to prove she's not kidding around. Cecile uses her empathic powers to interrogate Ava's accomplice, Rosalind Dillon, and discovers the plan. Ava is going to blow up a black hole plane over Central City. Meanwhile, Nash and the Council of Wells living inside his head figure out how to reactivate the artificial Speed Force. The problem? The price is Nash's life. He tries to find another way, but time is running out. In a heroic act, Nash sacrifices himself, taking all the other Wells with him to restore Barry's speed.
Now, Barry, run.
The Flash returns in full force, saves the city, and prepares to tell his friends about the sacrifice. But the episode's biggest bombshell is saved for last. While Iris tries to escape the mirror world, Ava herself discovers a shocking truth. She's also a copy. The real Ava died years ago in the particle accelerator explosion. Basically, the villain finds out she's been a ghost all along. After grieving for Nash and the Wells, Barry and Cisco focus on rescuing the prisoners from the mirror world. The new artificial Speed Force gives Barry speed thinking. He can predict every outcome but loses his emotions. Using this power, Barry exposes Ava live on TV. With Ava on the run, a dilemma arises. Save only Iris, or include Camilla and Singh. Robot mode Barry chooses to save only his wife. Cisco, Frost, and Allegra try to stop him, but Barry is too powerful.
Your time as a speedster is coming to an end.
The plan fails. Everyone in the mirror world starts having seizures. Barry opens the portal and pulls Iris through by force, but she collapses too. In shock, Barry shuts down the artificial force and returns to normal. Ava, completely unhinged, decides to replace everyone with mirror copies. The original Harrison Wells, who died 20 years ago, reappears out of nowhere at the spot where his body was found. Ava continues her invasion, replacing people with copies. Sue Dearborn and Ralph Dibny return with evidence to clear Sue's name. Ralph has been turned into a giant blob after McCulloch Technologies exploded. Ava tries to demoralize Barry, but Wells appears and reminds Barry that he is the paragon of love. Barry rescues Iris, and with speed and love, revives her. The team reactivates the artificial force and goes up against the army of clones. Barry restores the original Speed Force. He and Iris convince Ava to stop, but her clones have become too strong and are out of control. Ava joins the heroes, and together, they destroy the clones. Ava frees the prisoners and returns to the mirror world. Wells can see all of time and decides to live in a time loop with his wife. Sue and Ralph set off to hunt down evil organizations around the world. 18 hours earlier, Barry and Iris revive the Force, unleashing 4 colored lightning bolts into the world. A week after Ava's attack, the city is rebuilding. Iris and Allegra cover the story for the paper. Iris is suffering from the trauma of being trapped in the mirror world. Barry feels guilty for not realizing Iris was a fake. Abracadabra returns and lets himself be captured by Argus on purpose to build build an antimatter bomb and destroy the city. His motive: revenge on Barry, since his family was erased after the crisis. Barry convinces Kadabra to deactivate the bomb. A giant monster appears and absorbs the bomb. Kadabra tries to save Barry but is killed by the creature. The monster almost gets Barry but feels a surge of pain and flees. Allegra gets a promotion and Iris joins a support group to deal with her trauma. Frost and Caitlin reveal to Cisco that they have separated into two different bodies. Ava's mirror gun hit Caitlin, causing Frost's meta-human DNA to form its own body. The two argue over whether to merge back together or remain separate, ultimately deciding to live separate lives. Barry is visited by the Speed Force in the form of his deceased mother, Nora Allen. She shares the same energy as the monster Fuerza. A new villain, Psyche, emerges, terrorizing the city with fear waves that trap everyone in nightmares. Barry is hit and relives his greatest fears, including Thawne and Savitar. Teen Flash devises a plan using Barry's speed, Cecile's powers, and DeVoe's chair to create a courage wave. The plan works, and Psyche vanishes, but Barry is left injured. Agent Kristen Kramer appears at the police station, informing Joe she's there to arrest Frost. The Speed Force mother reveals she was attacked by Psyche and Fuerza, and that they are like her. Cisco and Chester try to detect Fuerza and Psyche but get stuck in a time loop, reliving the day before Chester's father died in a car accident. Quincy, his father, appears to help them. Together, they build a device to protect themselves from the time gone. The one responsible is Dion, a former quarterback trying to go back in time to prevent a career-ending injury. Chester convinces Dion to let go of the past. Dion realizes he can change everyone's future and disappears, breaking the loop. Cisco christens the new forces: the Still Force, Dion; the Strength Force, Fuerza; and the Sage Force, Psyche. Barry gets out of the cryo tank and Iris invites the Speed Force to live with them. Joe warns Frost about Kramer, but she is unfazed. Chester begins working on one of his father's old projects.
Time to finish what you started.
Barry's powers glitch whenever he gets near the Speed Force, now called Nora. A microchip is stolen from Ivo Labs, and the driver is found frozen to death. Kramer blames Frost and issues a warrant for her arrest. Frost goes to an old bar and meets the new bartender, Mark Blaine, who reveals himself as Chill Blaine. He stole the chip and used cryogenic tech to copy Frost's powers and frame her. A fight breaks out and he gets the upper hand, but Frost stabs him before collapsing. Barry and Allegra arrive to help. Frost had recorded Chill Blaine's entire confession. When Kramer arrives, Frost surrenders peacefully. Barry and Nora admit she's a different entity and promise to fight the other forces together. Barry and Nora hunt for Fuerza and find Alexa. Nora accuses Alexa, scaring the young woman. Barry gains her trust. Alexa reveals she has bizarre blackouts when she gets angry. Star Labs confirms Alexa is Fuerza. Nora snaps, attacks Iris, and uses Barry's powers to kill Alexa. The Speed Force has become a murderer. In court, Kramer wants to force Frost to take the meta-human cure instead of serving prison time. Caitlin asks her mother for help and, with Cisco and Allegra, breaks into the police station to destroy the cure. Kramer had a backup plan and blames Frost for the break-in, revealing another vial of the cure. Caitlin's mother confirms the substance is safe, but Frost fears losing her identity. Frost gives a speech against the forced cure and requests life in prison without parole. The judge agrees. Nora tells Iris and Barry she created the other forces and is going to delete Psyche and Dion. Barry wants to go back in time and remove his connection to the forces. Iris and Cisco think it's a terrible idea. Cisco gives Camilla a special camera to detect the forces. Barry, Cisco, and Chester upgrade a tachyon device to siphon particles from the forces. Barry brings a Wells to create a time bubble and protect the timeline. Dion appears and destroys the device. Psyche ambushes Team Citizen and traps Iris in a nightmare with Nora. Chester fixes the device. Joe tries to convince Barry to give up, but he goes to the past with Wells. The extraction works. Alexa returns to normal, and Psyche and Dion are erased. Barry realizes his mistake and destroys the device to undo everything. He and Iris use their connection to the forces to bring Alexa back. Wells leaves. Cisco and Camilla decide to move out of Central City. Nora appears to settle the score with Dion. Psyche becomes a reverse Robin Hood, attacking billionaires. Iris discovers his name is Bashir, a former rich kid abandoned by his parents. Kramer returns to the CCPD wanting Joe to talk to Barry about the disappearance of metahumans. She reveals she got approval to create bullets with the metahuman cure. Joe resigns so he won't be corrupted. Barry trains Alexa too hard, and she loses control, injuring Cisco and losing her motivation. Caitlin gives Alexa a device to communicate with Fuerza. The plan works. Fuerza defends Barry from an attack by Psyche. Barry convinces Bashir to go to Star Labs. Nora and Dion appear and attack Iris, Alexa, and Psyche. Iris, Alexa, and Bashir fake their own deaths and flee.
What just happened? How are we still alive?
Bashir convinces Alexa they need to go back and fight. Nora gets furious and creates an electrical storm that causes a citywide blackout and opens the cells at Iron Heights. Frost has to stop the escaped Chillblaine. Barry tries to recruit Dion but fails. When he confronts Nora, she reveals it wasn't her. The other forces created the storm. Dion betrays Nora but gets beaten and retreats. Joe shows up with a motivational speech, reminding Barry and Iris they aren't bad parents. They reconcile with Alexa, Bashir, and Dion and go after Nora. Bashir and Dion show Nora a future where she is alone, which makes her stop. The forces give Barry a boost, and he ends the storm.
Concentrate. Then follow my thoughts.
The forces make peace and depart. Cecile wakes up. Frost gets time off for good behavior and admits she has a crush on Chillblaine. Barry and Iris decide to start a family. Cisco drops a bombshell. He accepted a job at Argus and is moving to Star City with Camilla. Barry and Caitlin pretend everything is fine, which upsets Cisco. A new metahuman appears, Carrie Bates, Rainbow Raider 2.0. Her power puts people in a state of euphoria, making them do whatever she commands. Barry and Cisco try to stop her with an old device, but she destroys it and uses her powers on Cisco. On the second attempt, a Bliskout Cisco gets in Barry's way, allowing the villain to escape, and Barry gets infected too. Chester brings them both back to normal. Cisco, Barry, and Caitlin have an emotional conversation and share a tearful hug. The villain gets a blimp and plans to drop money over the city. Barry convinces her to give up and use her ideas on a city council committee instead. Cisco passes the torch to Chester, handing over his tech and responsibilities. Farewell parties are thrown for him and Camilla. Cecile starts seeing a psychic mask in her reflection. The spirit of the Psycho Pirate's mask has possessed Cecile and thrown Barry's consciousness into a mental block. There, Barry finds Cecile, who has been trapped for 2 weeks since the Force's storm. In the real world, Psycho Cecile tricks Iris, Chester, Caitlin, and Sue into stealing the mask from a museum. With the artifact, she becomes more powerful. She unearths DeVoe's chair to amplify and feed on Cecile's powers. In the mental block, Cecile reveals they are in a memory of a psychiatric hospital in Texas where she was institutionalized after her mother's death. Iris and Chester destroy DeVoe's chair, creating an opening. Cecile overcomes her grief and pain, allowing her and Barry to regain control of their bodies. The mask is contained and sent to Argus. Joe reunites with Cecile and reveals Kramer was working with enemies and led a squad into a deliberate ambush during Operation Griffin. Barry and Iris go on vacation. Allegra's cousin, Esperanza Garcia, Ultraviolet, resurfaces, wanting to kill Dr. Olson, the man who turned her into an assassin and stole her voice. She attacks Allegra, warning her to stay out of it. Allegra believes there is still good in her cousin. With Sue's help, she tracks Ultraviolet and the doctor to an abandoned warehouse. The fight is intense, and Allegra unlocks the full potential of her light powers, defeating her cousin. Dr. Olson is arrested. The team offers to help Ultraviolet, using the scientist's research to restore her voice. Joe tries to approach Kramer to offer help, but she refuses and threatens to arrest him. She later relents and reveals the truth. The one who led the men into the trap was her adoptive brother, Adam. She asks for Joe's help to find the traitor. Frost runs into Chillblaine on the street. He tells her he was released for turning informant, leaving Frost shocked. Barry dreams of his future daughter, Nora. He gets fixated on the idea that Iris is pregnant and creates a super tech pregnancy test. Cecile and Chester find out. Frost shows up dragging an injured Chillblaine who needs to be patched up. 6 Godspeed clones invade Central City, communicating in a strange dialect. Chester creates a translation algorithm and activates the lab's defenses. The clones break in, and Chester hides in the time vault, using Gideon to mess with the robots' heads. This gives Barry, Frost, and Chillblaine an opening to fight. A clone destroys Gideon. Barry races through the city with the clones in pursuit, but another 6 clones appear and fight the first group. A Godspeed civil war breaks out. Then they all vanish to recharge. Sparks fly between Frost and Chilblain, but he flees. Barry finds out Iris isn't pregnant. Cecile helps Caitlin with a sinister-looking chip. Joe and Kramer are attacked during an investigation. Barry continues dreaming of Nora, who warns him her future is in danger. John Diggle appears and helps capture a Godspeed clone. The clone reveals they are hunting the original August Hart and want Barry to help them finish him off. Barry refuses, and the clone escapes. Barry tries to travel to 2049 to check on Nora, but is knocked out of the Speed Force by clones. When he recovers, he finds Dion protecting Iris, who is phasing between different timelines. Diggle, Cecile, and Frost find August Hart, but he has amnesia. They make him remember everything. Diggle leaves to deal with personal matters. Esperanza asks Allegra for help taking down Black Hole. Allegra refuses, but later changes her mind. As soon as they team up, Esperanza is killed. Joe and Kramer arrest Adam, a soldier who suffered from experiments and wanted revenge. Joe stops Kramer from taking justice into her own hands. Nora West Allen arrives from 2049, but she's not alone. Bart, Barry's future son, is with her. Barry lets Bart and Nora stay in the past to help fight the Godspeed clones.
Hey, Dad.
Nora.
Dad, meet your son, Bart.
Hey, Dad. What's good?
Barry suggests Nora rewind time, but she reveals she's not the other Nora, but a different version. The clones have one main target, Bart. Godspeed is his personal Thawne, the villain who killed Jay Garrick in front of him. Iris returns to normal. After several defeats, Iris and Barry decide to take their kids out of the fight. The rebel clones capture Jay and demand Bart in exchange. Bart goes to fight alone, gets badly beaten, and is nearly killed. Barry and Nora arrive in time to save him. Cisco arrives in the nick of time and traps the clones. With a war raging and citizens fleeing, Chester asks Allegra for help charging a device that can remove the clone's speed. Cecile helps Barry enter August Hart's mind. Inside, he finds a version of the villain with all his memories, the original Godspeed.
You finally found me! Well done.
This is gonna be so much.
The Godspeed War is in full swing. August Hart arrives demanding organic speed in exchange for peace. The Speed Force decides to join the fray. It revives Bart and gives super speed to Iris. The team goes after the clones in an epic battle. The clones begin to drain power from the Speed Force, which is forced to retreat. Allegra shows up with Chester's device, which de-powers the clones. With the clones neutralized, Barry decides to grant Hart's request and restores his memories. Against Cecile's advice, Hart merges with all the clones. Before he can enjoy his new power, Eobard Thawne appears, incapacitates Hart, tries to attack Barry, fails, and vanishes. Hart is taken to Iron Heights with his memory of Barry's identity erased. Kramer discovers she has superpowers after saving Joe from an attack. She realizes she's a meta who can mimic abilities, which changes her perspective on the law. Barry and Iris renew their wedding vows in front of everyone. In 2031, the alien Despero witnesses the end of the world. In the present, 6 months after the Godspeed War, Barry stops a train collision and arrests the Royal Flush Gang. Iris now runs Central City Citizen Media and interviews Kramer, who has disbanded the anti-meta task force. Ray Palmer is attending a tech convention when Despero invades and tries to kill Barry, accusing him of causing the apocalypse. Ray suits up as the Atom to drive him off. Cecile uses her powers to confirm that Despero was telling the truth. Barry reveals his identity to the alien, who gives him 1 week to prove his innocence. Despero claims that Barry will go insane. Barry investigates a security guard who had a psychotic break but is suspended by Kramer over federal espionage charges. Star Labs is shut down after a radiation spike. Alex Danvers helps research Despero and may discover his power comes from the flame of Pytar. Barry encounters Zotar, a psychic meta, who makes him go berserk and attack the team. After capturing her, the team reveals that Joe West died 6 months ago. Barry has no memory of this or of a video showing him attacking civilians. Despero appears to kill him, but Barry escapes to the Hall of Justice and finds Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning.
I need your help.
Barry, what the hell is going on?
Injustice.
Barry asks Jefferson to remove his powers, following the Injustice protocols, but when he mentions Despero, he nearly attacks Jefferson. Iris and Allegra investigate Joe's death and uncover suspicious coincidences. Iris sees temporal particles, and Dion reveals that someone used the negative Speed Force to kill Joe. Cecile uses her powers on Rosalind Dillon to locate Barry. Despero siphons energy from the particle accelerator and attacks the group. Jefferson, Iris, and Dion appear to hold him off. Dion sends Barry to 2031, Dawn, where he finds Iris's engagement party to Thawne. The entire Team Flash is there and gives Barry a cold reception. In the future, Barry discovers he is the Reverse Flash, and Thawne is the hero. Thawne reveals he killed Joe, framed Barry, and went back in time to kill Barry as a child, stealing his life. This reverse Flashpoint timeline will become permanent at midnight. Barry forms an alliance with this reality's Damien Darhk, who agrees to help after learning his daughter Nora is alive in the original timeline. Alex advises Chester and Allegra, while Ryan helps Iris with her vows. To return to 2021, Barry must trigger Armageddon. Thawne tries to stop him, but Iris lets Barry escape. Darhk holds off Team Flash while Barry manages to return and undo the changes. Barry tells Despero to check 2031. Thawne appears in the Time Vault, back in his Reverse Flash suit. Barry reunites with Joe. Damien Darhk appears, glitching through time and about to be erased. Thawne attacks the CCPD but is stopped by Barry and Mia Queen, who is looking for her brother, William. Thawne, about to be deleted, begs Barry to save him. Despero insists on letting him die, but Joe convinces Barry and Iris to spare him. Despero possesses Mia and threatens to blow up Central City. Iris and Cecile help Mia regain control. Barry discovers that Despero was the tyrant of his own planet and, using Chester's tech, removes his powers and banishes him. Barry drains Thawne's speed, saving him and handing him over to Argus. Darhk gives his time stone to Joe and says goodbye to Nora. A photo from 2014 shows Bart and Nora West Allen standing next to Eddie Thawne. Bart and Nora return to 2049 to find Jay Garrick alive, but Joan Williams missing. They and Godspeed overused the cosmic treadmill and messed up the timeline. They travel to December 31st, 2013, when Joe was shot during a robbery. Disguised as CSI interns, they meet Avery, a quantum mechanics expert. Bart saves Joe, but this makes things worse. Mona Taylor, the future queen of the Royal Flush Gang, plans a more deadly heist. With Avery's help, Bart and Nora understand they can't stop the robbery, but they can prevent deaths. Bart evacuates the building but is injured by the Queen. Nora disables the explosives. Bart and Nora return to 2049 to find both Jay and Joan alive. In the present, Iris's hairbrush vanishes in a green light. Kramer is unhappy with Flash dropping off criminals without explanation. Joe suggests creating a direct hotline to the hero. Goldface attacks the CCPD looking for bullets that remove meta-human powers. He traps Barry and Kramer in explosive cuffs. Kramer's mimicry powers short out the cuffs. Barry convinces her to mimic Goldface's powers to distract him while Flash defeats the gang. Barry reveals his identity, but Kramer says she already knew. They agree to train together.
Alan, I know it's you.
You really are a great cop.
Caitlin is on a date with Dr. Marcus, but Frost and Mark show up. Mark makes Caitlin realize she's afraid of commitment. At Joe's house, objects vanish in front of Iris. She loses track of time, and her eyes glow green. Jacko Birch is arrested for incinerating Stan Mullen. Jacko swears he's innocent and only wants to care for his son, Harold. Barry senses he's telling the truth. Another person is found incinerated, and Chester discovers the method was different, proving Jacko's innocence. Flash and Frost find Jacko trying to kidnap his son and team up to stop a lava flow. Iris asks Allegra to interview an influencer, but Allegra pursues another story. Iris publishes both articles but demands an apology, which Allegra refuses. Jacko reunites with his son, and the family celebrates Henry Allen's birthday. Team Flash must find the real pyrokinetic. Dion examines Iris's time sickness, but doesn't know what's happening. Barry and Chester find another incinerated body and the mysterious black flame. Chester starts having nightmares, thinking it's the ghost of his father, Quincy. The black flame manifests as his father and attacks. Cecile realizes the entity feeds on pain and grief. Chester tells the ghost that he isn't his father and the entity vanishes. Joe discovers all the victims were grieving. The black flame is a creature trying to survive. Iris and Sue go to Coast City, searching for the ghost of Coast City, finding Tinya, who is looking for her biological mother. Iris convinces her to team up. Dion appears before Iris with bad news. Dion reveals that Iris's sickness is fracturing time around her. The black flame attacks Frost. She and Carla devise a plan to amplify her ice powers, lure the flame and trap it in a fusion sphere. The plan fails, and Frost is injured. Caitlin is furious, but Carla reveals she will also develop ice powers. The two act as bait together, but the sphere is damaged, and Carla goes into cardiac arrest. Frost saves her mother, and the Black Flame escapes. In Coast City, Iris and Sue take Tinya to an adoption agency. Tinya finds her mother, Renee, but Iris's eyes glow green and Renee disappears in a flash of light. The Black Flame appears to Caitlin with the voice of Ronnie Raymond. Ronnie begs Caitlin to save him. She realizes the Black Flame was after her all along. Barry suspects a trap, but Caitlin goes into I can save him mode and devises a plan with Chester. She tells Marcus, who breaks up with her. Ronnie contacts Cecile, who feels his agony and suggests sacrificing the creature. The Black Flame goes to the spot where Ronnie and Caitlin got engaged. Flash tries to trap it, but Caitlin and Frost destroy the trap. Caitlin uses a quantum splicer. Ronnie is freed, and he collapses.
It's you.
Tinya uses her powers and makes Iris disappear. Sue rushes to Central City and tells Barry. That night, Ronnie wakes up, reveals he's not the real one, and transforms into Deathstorm.
I'm not Ronnie. I am Deathstorm.
Flash rescues Caitlin, but Deathstorm vanishes and continues incinerating people across the city. Cecile tries to track him, but Deathstorm possesses her and demands Caitlin. He attacks with a manifestation of Esperanza Garcia and kidnaps Caitlin, planning to make her his bride. He looks at her, says, "You're not ready," and lets her go. The team discovers that Ronnie's grief was ejected into space by the Singularity and traveled for 7 years. Chester begins tuning the mental augmentation chamber to release cosmic energy. Frost volunteers to be the test subject. Iris time sickness attacks. She goes to the Still Force, returns, and infects Dion, who disappears. Sue stops Iris from vanishing. Eddie Thawne, dead for years, appears in her apartment.
Iris. It's so good to see you.
The Eddie is an illusion created by Deathstorm to make Iris suffer, but she doesn't fall for it. Sue wakes up and they call Joe. Caitlin is getting worse. Deathstorm invades Star Labs and invokes ghosts from the team's past to feed on their grief and transform Caitlin into his bride. He taunts Frost, saying she has no real feelings. Mark arrives and helps Frost unleash her full power, transforming into Hellfrost. She fights Deathstorm and absorbs all of his grief energy but sacrifices her own life to save everyone. Frost dies.
Because I'm not just Frost. I'm Hellfrost.
Frost.
Teen Flash is devastated by Frost's loss. A villain named Blockbuster emerges, having stolen armor from Ivo Labs. Allegra and Cecile try to help Flash, but the villain has a cloaking device and vanishes. Iris writes Frost's obituary. Chester and Allegra argue about how to honor her. Mark goes to a bar, and Barry completes a bucket list Frost left behind. Barry convinces Caitlin to go to the funeral, where she realizes Frost's voice lives on inside her. She later calls Mark and announces she's going to bring Frost back. Blockbuster is defeated. Iris is talking to Taylor when she disappears in a green light. Barry realizes Iris is gone and asks Tinya for help, but she refuses. Dion appears, saying Iris is lost in the Still Force. Barry enters with Dion using an isotopic sensor. They find Renee, who vanishes. Dion shows his true colors. He steals a temporal particle, breaks the sensor, and abandons Barry. Barry is trapped in a fake version of Joe's house with the Nora from 2049, whom Dion brought there. Barry connects with the Still Force, and he and Nora escape by breaking through temporal barriers. Kramer asks Chester to examine an explosive device. Chester discovers it was made with his open source tech to provide hot water. Someone hacks Chester's computer and downloads all his files. Mark agrees to help Caitlin bring Frost back. Barry investigates the theft of a gamma absorption device from Mercury Labs. He finds the thief, Peter Orloff, but is shot by the device and ages 30 years. The more he uses his speed, the older he gets, suffering from pain and memory loss. Barry and Cecile find a laptop, and Chester uncovers the plan. Orloff wants to become immortal by stealing Central City's energy, aging its population. Orloff activates the machine, but Barry uses his speed to reverse the gamma field, undoing the effect and rejuvenating them both. A week later, Barry discovers Caitlin's plan to bring Frost back. She refuses to accept her sister's death. Barry loses his patience and destroys her equipment.
We don't have to say goodbye to Frost. Barry, please.
A new speedster puts out a fire at Ivo Labs but steals a Newton battery. Barry thinks it's Thawne and goes to Lee and Yu. Thawne, knowing about Frost's death, deduces the speedster accidentally caused the fire. Lydia warns Allegra that the Uranus gang is back, led by Kimio Hoshi and Millie Rollins. They attack CCC Media during an interview, and Chester activates a force field. Taylor exposes Allegra's past, and Allegra reveals she is the light-based Meta who helps Flash. Allegra goes up against the villains while Lydia exposes the gang live on air. The Uranus flee, and Taylor makes peace with Allegra but warns her she can't hide. Caitlin announces she needs some time. Flash catches the speedster returning the battery. She reveals herself as Mina, the device's inventor. Flash agrees to be her mentor. Barry finds the block, a chamber that grants super speed. The Flashpoint Thawne, suffering from amnesia, helped invent it. Barry tries to stop Mina from using it, but it's too late. She connects to the negative speed force and siphons its energy. Thawne explains that he fell in love with Mina and had visions of the block. Using their love, he manages to get Mina to disconnect. Ray Palmer calls to warn that the Flashpoint Thawne has been resurrected by the time wraiths. Barry theorizes he was brought back to help Mina. Cecile's powers grow and she acts as a hero but is followed by a mysterious woman. Mark devises a new plan to bring Frost back. Diggle visits the original Thawne on Liang Yu, asking for help with a green box. Diggle chooses his family, and the box vanishes. Dion appears in the cell, telling Thawne he must fulfill his destiny. Flash reveals his identity to Mina and names her Fast Track.
Holy crap.
Fast Track.
Dion erases the imprisoned Thawne and with negative versions of Alexa and Bashir, attacks Mina and the good Thawne. In 2049, Iris reappears. Joan Williams explains her body is flooded with negative tachyons, preventing her from returning to 2022. Nora warns Team Flash. The negative forces used Iris as a Trojan horse to infect the good forces. Mark places Caitlin in a consciousness resurrection chamber. Cecile realizes she stole Rosalind Dillon's powers. Joe takes her to Iron Heights, but she steals another Meta's powers. Barry helps Mina share her speed with the Flashpoint Thawne, and they fight together. Negative Dion summons Iris as a shield. Flash's attack hits and kills Iris. The original Thawne is resurrected in the good Thawne's body. The resurrected Thawne becomes the avatar of the negative forces. They explain it's revenge for Barry taking Thawne's speed. Cecile returns Bashir's powers, who frees the other forces and helps Barry. Iris didn't die. The Time Stone saved her. With help from Damien Dark, she returns to life. Jay Garrick brings her back to Barry. In the final battle, Barry, with everyone's help, reverses Thawne's attack against him. Thawne is disintegrated and erased from the timeline. The universe resets, Iris is healed, Mina loses her powers, and each speedster returns to their own time. Mark's machine malfunctions, and in Frost's place, a new figure appears, claiming to be a friend. Cecile gains telekinesis. Iris worries the negative speed force will find a new avatar, but Barry says he's ready. A week after the Thawne situation, Barry Allen decides to play Doctor Strange, and creates a map of the future, essentially a script for his own life. His to-do list had everything, becoming the head of the CSI division, Iris selling her company to none other than Cat Grant, and even a showdown with Captain Boomerang. But the plan goes south. During the theft of a battery, Boomerang causes an explosion that traps Barry and Iris in a time loop, just like in Groundhog Day. They're stuck reliving the same day, arguing about the future Barry insists on following to the letter. That's when Joe and Cecile drop some Yoda-like wisdom. You create the future, you don't follow it like an instruction manual. It finally clicks, and Barry burns his book of spoilers. In the final loop, he plays it smart, phases through the accelerator, and prevents a nuclear explosion. As a bonus, Chester and Allegra finally kiss, a happy ending for everyone. Barry and Iris accept their new job offers, and Joe and Cecile start thinking about moving out of Central City. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The Caitlin who returned isn't Caitlin, or Frost. She's a completely new person. To top it all off, Captain Boomerang delivers the stolen battery to a mysterious speedster with a bat emblem. Things just got interesting. The new Caitlin introduces herself as Snow, a person born from a glitch in the resurrection chamber. Think of a software update gone very wrong. Mark, still grieving for Frost, tries to reverse the process, but deep down, he really just wants Frost back. The result? Another system error, leading to the conclusion that you can't have both. The decision is left to Snow. Meanwhile, Hartley Rathaway, the Pied Piper, is attacked by a new fiddler and rushes to Star Labs for help. After a chat with Snow, he decides to go after the villain to finish her, but Flash arrives in Heroes Don't Kill mode and stops him. They manage to save Hartley's boyfriend and his crew, but Captain Boomerang shows up, steals Pied Piper's sonic gauntlets, and bails with the fiddler, whom the team learns is named Andrea. In the midst of all this chaos, Snow decides she wants to live her own life and chooses the name Key 1. Hartley, furious with the situation, destroys the resurrection chamber, enraging Mark. To make matters worse, the mysterious speedster uses the stolen gauntlets to stabilize her physical form and warns that she's going to make Central City pay for Barry's mistakes. The bill has come due.
Justice will be served.
The Rogues, Boomerang, the Fiddler, and someone named Murmur continue their robbery tour and steal a temporal scanner. Barry figures out their game. They're building a cosmic treadmill, the famous time-traveling machine. To stop their next move, which is stealing a vibrational engine, Barry assembles his own B-list suicide squad, featuring Pied Piper, Mark, Jacko, Birch, and Goldface. The crew doesn't trust Flash much, but he manages to prove his worth. But then comes the backstab. Mark betrays everyone. He joined the Rogues in exchange for Frost's resurrection. The plan falls apart. The villains get away with the engine, and the mysterious speedster even manages to temporarily shut down Barry's speed. Meanwhile, Key 1 becomes the team's Cupid, trying to set Allegra and Chester up. Iris has a bad feeling, thinking the new speedster is the avatar of the negative Speed Force. The good news is that Pied Piper, Jacko, and Goldface decide to keep helping. Chester discovers the villain's equipment is from Wayne Enterprises and that Batwoman Ryan has disappeared. And the final plot twist, the speedster unmasks for the Rogues. And it's Ryan herself. What?
We don't even know who you are underneath that mask.
Vengeance.
The episode kicks off in chaos. Roy Bigelow and a new speedster, calling herself Red Death, straight up kidnap Barry, and, for good measure, cause a citywide blackout. The complete disaster combo. While imprisoned, Barry discovers that Red Death's speed isn't natural. It's like an artificial upgrade. He even tries to talk some sense into Mark and convince him to return to the good side. Meanwhile, Red Death, who is actually Orion from another timeline, pays Iris a visit, but Iris isn't a fool and immediately senses something is off. Ryan then comes clean. In her timeline, she and the Flash became mortal enemies. After being kicked out of the Speed Force, she landed in this reality and now wants to use the cosmic treadmill to get back home. To force the issue, she kidnaps Iris and uses her as a hostage. The plan is simple and cruel. Either Barry uses his powers to turn on the treadmill or Iris is a goner. The blackmail is so intense that a lightning storm starts brewing over the city. But then comes the plot twist. Mark, showing he still has a shred of decency, sabotaged the treadmill. This heroic act comes at a cost, and he ends up getting beaten by the Rogues while Team Flash rescues Barry and Iris. In the midst of the confusion, Joe sees Cecile using her powers to save Jenna and decides he's not moving after all. To wrap up the drama, Red Death promises that now it's war.
Bring the war down!
The Rogues don't waste any time and go right after the police, capturing Kramer. While trying to rescue Mark, Barry comes face to face with Red Death, who simply drains all of his speed. As if that weren't enough, with Gorilla Grodd's help, she creates an army of psychic clones of herself scattered across the globe. Things just got personal and global, but hope isn't lost. Key 1 realizes she can be useful even without powers and, in a fairy tale-worthy moment, awakens Mark with a kiss. Meanwhile, after a talk with Joe, Barry goes straight to the source of the problem, Grodd. The big ape allied himself with the villainous because he felt abandoned after his community in Gorilla City lost their sentience following the crisis. Barry, being the hero he is, promises to help Grodd restore his people. The deal works. Grodd returns Barry's speed and undoes all of Red Death's clones. Now with the tables turned, the final battle begins. With help from Hartley's group and even the Prime Timeline's Batwoman, Barry defeats Red Death and ships her off to Argus. 2 weeks later, the mood is one of farewell, Joe finally moves away with Jenna. At the party, Chester and Allegra finally become a couple, but the biggest bombshell comes from Key One. She announces that Iris is pregnant, 3 months ahead of schedule. The future has arrived early. We meet Rebecca Sharp, a woman who is apparently alive on Earth Prime and living a normal life, but not quite. She's accused of attacking her own fiancé, Dominic, and the situation gets really weird. Cecile and Allegra go into full detective mode to prove her innocence, but they run into a problem. Rebecca's kidnappers are using dark matter refractors that completely nullify their powers. In the midst of all this, Cecile misses her train to visit Joe and freaks out at the thought of being away from Jenna, but Allegra comforts her. During their investigation, they discover the real villain, Tony, the fiancé's brother. The guy had placed a refractor in Rebecca's engagement ring to invert her good luck powers. His goal? To blackmail her into paying off his gambling debts. A real scumbag. Cecile, showing who's boss, uses her telekinesis to rip the ring off, destroying the refractor and leaving Tony on a silver platter for Kramer. Meanwhile, Mark is obsessed with the idea that Key One has powers, thinking that's what woke him up and that it's all that's left of Frost. Key One tries to explain that Frost lives on in his memories, and to prove she's her own person, she simply makes it snow inside the lab, like Elsa from Frozen. The next morning, everything seems to be settling down. Dominic wakes up, Cecile invites Allegra to live in Joe's old house, and Team Flash throws a baby shower. But the calm doesn't last long. As Chester reveals the final bombshell, Key One is neither human nor metahuman. Nia Nal is on an Indiana Jones-style quest for an ancient source of Naltorian dream energy. The problem is, during a nightmare involving Iris, a hooded figure appears and just steals her powers. Not knowing what to do, she rushes to Central City to ask for help. Meanwhile, Iris is having an existential crisis. She's about to win a Pulitzer, but she's questioning whether she's just following a pre-written destiny or if she's truly in control of her own life. It's like when you follow a Netflix suggestion and wonder if you ever really wanted to watch it in the first place. Suddenly, the two are pulled into a dream with a very Inception-like vibe. Inside, they have a mutual therapy session. Nia shows Iris that destiny isn't a single road, but a GPS that recalculates the route with every choice you make. In return, Iris gives Nia the key. To become stronger, she paradoxically needs to let go of control. Nia follows the advice and finds the spirit of the first Naltorian with dream powers, like a spiritual master Yoda, who promises to train her. They wake up, and a renewed Iris publishes her article. In a parallel storyline, Mark is trying to deal with Key One in the worst way possible. He only wants to do the things with her that he did with Frost, completely ignoring Key One's own ideas. She realizes Mark only sees her as a ghost of Frost and bails on him. He later apologizes and decides to leave Central City, which makes Key One so sad that she accidentally freezes Cecile's banquet, in a total Elsa from Frozen having a meltdown vibe.
Kian, are you okay? I'm fine.
Are you sure?
I guess I am feeling a little sad.
Barry, Iris, and a bunch of government agents get trapped in the Star Lab Speed Lab, in a situation that feels like an escape room gone horribly wrong. Out of nowhere, Barry drops a spoiler from the future mentioning a time magnet that will end up in a museum in 2123. The group puts the pieces together and concludes that someone there stole the magnet from the future but forgot to bring its stabilizer, which has trapped everyone in the same moment on a loop. To make matters worse, one of the agents turns into a statue. They realize the magnet will turn them all into garden ornaments if they don't fix this mess, and fast. Barry and Iris, in true Sherlock and Watson style, notice that Inspector Tao is completely clueless about her own job and unmask her. She's the thief. The woman reveals herself as Lady Kronos, but Barry, instead of fighting her, plays the Good Samaritan. He supercharges her belt so she can fix the mess in the future and convinces her to turn herself in instead of turning to dust. The timeline resets, everyone goes back to normal, and no one remembers a thing. A classic day is saved with collective amnesia ending. Meanwhile, in another plot, Chester declares his love for Allegra, who freaks out thinking about their future, but Cecile plays love coach, and Allegra ends up admitting she loves Chester too, a happy ending for the nerdy couple. The episode kicks off with a surprise birthday party for Barry, and the guest list is stacked. John Diggle and Wally West are in the house. The vibe is great, with Wally sharing stories of his astral travels through other timelines. When Ramsey Rosso, aka Bloodwork, crashes the party and knocks everyone out, Ramsey starts playing mind games with Barry, poking at the wound of the extra years he got to live. He then explains to Wally that timelines are actually alternate Earths in the new post-crisis multiverse, and that's when things get serious. He possesses Wally's mind, and forces him to kill Barry. Yes, you heard that right. But hold on, Barry isn't really dead. He wakes up in purgatory and comes face to face with none other than Oliver Queen, who is now the Spectre, the cosmic guardian of the multiverse.
What have you done this time?
It's the crossover we didn't know we needed. Oliver gives Barry a pep talk, helps him deal with his guilt, and resurrects him, temporarily returning as the Green Arrow to set things right. Back on Earth, the possessed Wally opens a portal to the multiverse, and Rosso begins to spread his infection. But Barry manages to free Wally, Key One revives Diggle, and the whole team joins forces to hold the villain off. This creates the perfect opening for Oliver to fire an arrow into the portal, purging the infection from the entire multiverse. To top it off, he also strips Rosso of his powers and cures his disease. Before leaving, Oliver explains that Key One is connected to the natural world and says his goodbyes to Diggle and Barry, ending the reunion on a high note. We start with Chester giving Allegra her first superhero suit and Iris receiving a Pulitzer nomination. Everything's going great until Barry is thrown back in time, straight to the day his mother was murdered, a great way to ruin the week. Desperate, he seeks out Joe for help and later ends up finding his parents. It's a deeply emotional moment, but it's short-lived. Eobard Thawne shows up and knocks Barry out. Meanwhile, Joe finds a mysterious blue crystal and gets possessed by it. The day just keeps getting better. After being hospitalized and even having lunch with his parents, Barry is confronted by Thawne, who boasts that his new plan is to kill Barry's child self, and there's nothing he can do about it. Barry returns to the hospital to say goodbye to his parents, knowing what's about to happen. That's when the possessed Joe attacks. The entity inside him says it isn't the new avatar of the negative Speed Force, but it still wants to correct the imbalance that Barry's legacy causes in the timeline. Barry manages to free Joe, but the crystal vanishes. He then goes to the scene of the original fight, where Thawne kills Nora. He watches it all happen again, but this time, he stops his younger self from interfering. After the fight, Barry confronts Thawne and says he's finally made peace with his mother's death. He has been transported away, and a confused Thawne loses his powers. Elsewhere, a man identical to Eddie Thawne is struck by lightning, finds a file on Eddie's death, and is left wondering,
who the hell is Eddie Thawne?
Chester finds traces of Cobalt where Barry disappeared. And speaking of disappearing acts, Mark returns, but he's not here for a happy reunion. The guy is possessed by the blue crystal and starts attacking Team Flash. His plan is to release a gas at CCC Media, but Key One shows up to save the day. She uses her powers to create plant cells in Taylor and Ariz's bodies, but the side effect is that their skin turns green. They run away terrified, and Mark still has the nerve to call Key One an abomination. Things get so serious that the Speed Force itself appears to defend Iris from Mark, explaining that he has become the new vessel for the negative Speed Force. After a motivational speech, Key One decides to fully embrace her powers. She basically disintegrates and reassembles Mark's body like a human Lego set, freeing him from the crystal. Barry finally returns just as Iris goes into labor, only to be pulled into another time jump. Seriously, the guy can't catch a break. Meanwhile, Eddie's doppelganger, a man named Malcolm, goes to the police to find out who Eddie Thawne is. He starts hearing voices, having visions of Eddie's memories, breaks into CCC Media, and even digs up the man's grave, which is empty. That's when it hits him. He is Eddie, and to prove it, he pulls the very bullet he killed himself with from his own chest. The Speed Force gives Team Flash a quick heads up. Barry and the crystal are in the year 2049. Then it simply vanishes. Meanwhile, the resurrected Eddie watches a police officer get sucked into a black hole that opens above his empty grave. The chaos has already begun. At the Flash Museum, he's approached by a girl who looks like Nora West Allen and claims to be his daughter, but the real Nora shows up and stops the trick. The 2049 Team Flash discovers that it's Eddie's subconscious that's opening these rifts in reality. The future Nora ends up being possessed by the crystal and tries to convince Eddie to accept its power, but Barry appears, rescues Eddie, and the two have one hell of a confrontation. Eddie is furious. His sacrifice did nothing to erase the Reverse Flash, and to make it worse, everyone forgot him while Barry lived happily ever after and married Iris. The resentment is palpable. Cecile projects her consciousness to 2049, discovers that in the future she barely visits Joe because of work, and with Chester's help, she returns and manages to free Nora from the crystal's influence. Desperate, Eddie asks the 2049 Iris to be with him, but she rejects him. This is the last straw. Heartbroken and filled with hatred, Eddie takes the crystal, accepts its power, and opens a portal, ready to destroy everything.
Tell me what to do. Accept our power and end the legacy of Barry Allen.
Eddie Thawne, now going by the call sign Cobalt Blue, decides he wants to be the Thanos of speedsters and resurrects, well, everyone. He brings back Eobard Thawne, Zoom, Savitar, and Godspeed, forming a supervillain boy band in the Negative Speed Force. A massive fight is inevitable, and they go after Team Flash and Nora in a season finale level battle. In the middle of the chaos, Cecile finally embraces her heroic side and becomes Virtue, complete with her own suit. Allegra saves Chester from Eobard, proving that not even the end of the world can stop romance. And Jay Garrick, the old school Flash, pulls a slick move and just steals Eddie's speed. Powerless, Eddie retreats to the Negative Speed Force to try and recharge. But Barry, who can't stand to see anyone suffer, goes after him. He gives his classic hero speech, telling Eddie he doesn't have to be a villain and that they can coexist peacefully. And what do you know, the pep talk actually works. Eddie is convinced, destroys the crystal that gave him his power, and says he's happy for Iris. Barry returns to the hospital just in time for the birth of baby Nora. Meanwhile, Mark drops a bombshell. Chester is a meta-human with black hole powers. Just like that. To top it all off, a hologram of Harrison Wells appears and tells Key once she has leveled up and must ascend as the protector of the natural order. She says her goodbyes and returns the body to Caitlin. A week later, Barry creates 3 new speedsters but assures everyone he's not retiring. After all, he is the Flash.
A world where nothing has to be impossible. As long as we believe in it.